Nightmare in the house. Hello, sir.
What's up, man?
Oh, man.
How's it going,
I'm
friend?
just hanging out. It's just another Friday.
Thanks for having me on here. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure, sir. How are
Can
you today?
I'm all right. Can you hear me okay?
I can. I think my volume's up as much as it can be. Can you hear me okay? I have a
Oh yeah,
fan on and a little bit of music. I can turn it down.
no, I can hear you fine.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Awesome. Excellent. Well, I don't know if you have a beverage of choice, whether it's alcohol, whether it's water, any.
water.
Right on. Cheers. I've got a beer. I got some water. So I figure we'll be good for a little bit. Um, so, holy
Before we
shit.
before we begin, Fred,
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you for just for what you're doing because I feel like you exercise some creativity in seeing a gap that needed to be filled. Even if it's on this platform here on social media, you had a vision and you've seen it through. And I've been seriously enjoying your Form Terror Fridays quite a bit. And I do apologize. I don't mean to hijack your interviews. I get excited and I really want to hear these other artists talk and what they want to say because honestly, like a lot of the artists you actually all of the artists you've had on here, I've had some kind of interaction with, whether I enjoy their art, whether I own a piece of their art, or maybe I listen to a band they play, and there's a connection there, and it's really cool to be able to learn a little bit more about the artists that you're interviewing because they're my colleagues too, So just a huge massive thanks to you because this is such an awesome forum. Music is always getting the attention, but really art is half the battle there. It's the gateway to the genre of music that we both and probably everybody watching here sincerely enjoy. So
Yeah.
what you're doing is just insanely commendable. I appreciate it.
Holy shit, man. Thank you so much. That means a lot. Yeah, no, I would never say that you've been hijacking my interviews. If anything, you've made them so much more engaging and so much more awesome because your questions have always been so genuine and interesting and provoking awesome conversations. And I really appreciate that.
No,
And it really kept things going for me. Like just to see someone that I admire and look up to engaging and being so interested in what I'm doing here. It's just like some small whatever thing I decided to do. It made me feel like I needed to keep going, and I really appreciate that. So
yeah. Well, no, I mean
thank you.
the feeling is mutual. I mean, all the artists, even your own work. I mean, I admire all of the people you've had on here. I admire their work too. Uh, and, just a couple of weeks ago, one of uh, Lucas Righelli's, I hope I said his last name correctly, one of his originals arrived that I purchased, and I have it, it's out being framed right now, but man, just to be able to spend, like 15 minutes just to stare at it. And
Hell yeah.
I mean, you learn so much just by looking at the art, just by inspecting it closely.
Right.
I mean, that's a learning opportunity for me, not just to appreciate the art, but to absorb and have a better understanding of some of the techniques Lucas is utilizing. Man, he takes a lot. It's very
Yeah.
obvious. He takes a lot of care and time in his work, and I just respect that because I'm quick and rushed when I work, and that's different from the way I attack my pieces. So to be able to admire how somebody else does it differently is pretty rewarding. But
Yeah.
anyway, just wanted to point that out. But
Yeah.
I don't mean to digress. You're about to begin.
No, it's fine. I really appreciate the words. Yeah, Lucas's work is breathtaking, and to be able to look at it up close is probably amazing. I don't have the pleasure of saying I've done so yet, but I'm glad that you might be able to look at it a little differently because of the interviews and being able to hear, the process behind it a little bit more than what you might just guess is happening because of what you see in front of you. And that's part of the reason why I want to do this so much is because I find it really interesting to hear about the process of different artists and the way that they go about different things, their technique, the way what's going on in their head when they're making a piece. Because all we're seeing is the end product. All we're seeing is the blood, sweat, and tears on the page. But where the fuck, what happened during that time to get to where it is? Because for me, I know that it's a painstaking process sometimes. It is a weird, frustrating, confusing thing for me personally. And it's not always the case, and it's certainly not the case for most artists, I'm sure, but there are a handful of people that it's hard to make art like that. And I think a great deal of admiration comes from me toward people that are doing such excellent work like you, who do it so quickly, who do it so fluently and so almost effortlessly. And I don't want to say too much about, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm saying that it feels like you're seasoned in this, you know what you're doing, and you just tackle it. And I want to be there. And I think that's a huge reason why I like to talk to other artists, because I get inspired and it helps me push through things that I get stuck at.
Yeah.
So
I understand that. I see a couple of folks I know in here, Marcio and Mark Gerald on here. So it's pretty cool to see them. I'm working with Mark Gerald Saltmar on here. I'm working on a drawing with him right now for the band Holder. So it's cool to see.
Killer. Hell yeah.
I hear that. And actually, I think art is a journey. Every piece is a journey, because, you know, you have a beginning and then you have a finish, but you don't know what the finish is going to be. All you have is that vision in your mind of how it might look, and you just trust and lean on your skill set to get you there. But I understand what you're saying. Like, maybe it appears on the surface that it looks effortless, and there is some second nature that comes into play, because, like with anything that you practice quite a bit, it becomes second nature, and you know how to tackle an assignment. But I do think that one thing that's very important in art is to take a risk on occasion, whether that be risk in terms of trying to draw something new or unfamiliar, to kind of build upon your visual language or your visual iconography. That can be a challenge, or maybe you're challenging yourself in that you're going to try illustrating something outside of your comfort zone in terms of like the genre or the niche that you illustrate within. So maybe going outside the boundary a little bit, doing something for another venue or a brand, or something a little bit off the beaten path, I think could be a healthy challenge, and also a healthy risk. I think it's important to take a couple of risks on occasion, not to the point where you frustrate yourself, but enough to keep yourself challenged and keep your work for you interesting, because
absolutely,
art's not just for the people who are viewing it. It's for you as a person, as a creator of the art. You have to find some bliss in what you do. Otherwise, what's the motivating factor going to be?
Right.
Find some pleasure in it. And I think that's really key. One of the most important aspects of being an artist or any creative type is just to have that drive, or that will to bring something to fruition.
Right.
And not to be frustrated by it, but to enjoy it, to find some solace in it.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I guess I just want to, like, real quick, I don't want you to feel like it's painful to me to make art. I think I wanted to point out that it can be. I do enjoy making art, or I wouldn't be doing it. But but yeah, you continue. I just
I just one of the things I wanted to bring up, and I try to prepare. I'm a visual person, just like I think every artist is. So I have some show and tell things, that just because I feel like it's one thing to hear me be a talking head. It's another to actually be able to show. And I think there's some value in showing and sharing. And don't get me wrong, I think the other artists you've had on here have had some awesome, wonderful things. I want to point out, like Lucas Court, for example. I don't know if he's watching today, but him being wrapped up in being a professor of art, he's able to live and breathe that on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And not just that, but to philosophize about what art is and what it means.
Yeah.
Be able to translate that to his students, so that he can help them find a way, a path. To help them find their own meaning in their process and what they decide to do, what path they decide to take creatively. So I admire that about Lucas. But I think it is important sometimes to pause and think about why do I do what I do?
Right.
To have that question.
Yeah.
Anyhow, one of the things I wanted to touch on is artist block, because I know you mentioned that
Yeah.
you tend to
Yeah.
be you're very picky and choosy about your clientele, and I understand why, because you know, as an artist, you're a problem solver. Every request that comes your way is a problem to be solved or a challenge to overcome. It's also a stretch to understand what your customer's goal is. And, you know,
Absolutely.
that's why you're valuable to them, is because you're helping them see their music or their message through in an individual way. Um, so I understand why you're particular about it, because you spend more time on your work. Sometimes you have a hard time thinking about, well, you might get a little nudge from the customer in terms of maybe a thematic to focus on, but what else are you bringing to the table? You gotta exercise some of that creativity to see it through, to get something down on paper, sketch. So artist block has been brought up a lot in many of the conversations you've had with the other artists, and how to kind of overcome that. So I did a little. I kind of thought about that, because I don't struggle with that often. Every once in a while, I'll do that. It could be a number of things that might frustrate me. Like, I think a couple months ago, I was working on something for Warbringer, and I ended up redrawing it like 3 times.
I was going to ask you if there was a specific, difficult and challenging experience that you wanted to touch on. So, by all means, yeah.
I mean, probably one of the most challenging that comes to mind would be the tasking to illustrate Justin Bieber's logo, because
Whoa.
not just that, because of the not just the sheer number of sketches I had to do for that, but it was like a week deadline, and it wasn't a guarantee that it was even going to happen. So
That's a really short deadline. Yeah.
so it was just like the cramming of things, and then having that risk of, well, for me it was a journey of curiosity. Where is this going to lead?
Right.
This is a strange request that's fallen in my lap. What do
Exactly.
where is it going to
Which
take?
I think ties in a little bit to what you were saying about accepting certain artists, like certain commissions.
Yeah,
But I don't want to derail you. I'm sorry.
no, it's not a derailment. It's just it's certainly a risk, but not just the sheer amount of sketches I had to do for it, which is not, typically for a logo I'll do like maybe 8 loose thumbnail sketches. For that one I did probably like 30 or something. Um, and then to consider the fan base is very different from
Yeah.
what's conventional for me. So
Right.
there's a risk and a challenge in that. So I would say that's probably one of the more challenging, given the time constraint, the number of things they had. Just cramming that all in a short time frame, and then not really knowing what the result's going to be.
Yeah,
So,
that's got to be like a mental weight just as much as a physical weight. Like,
it is, but I think it's important. And I know, like, I get what you're doing with and in your case, I think you're also selective with the clientele that you choose to work with. And I think that's every artist's right. It's to each their own when it comes to deciding who to work with. Because, I mean, I've worked with tons and tons of bands I don't listen to, or genres of music that aren't really necessarily my favorite, or that I don't listen to at all. Or in some cases, like, I've drawn beer cans. I don't drink beer. You know what I mean? So there's stuff that it's okay. Like, my job is not so much to revel in the reward that the brand or the company or my customer gets. It's more, my job is to be the artist and to provide the visual to help sell that product. Anyhow, I'm completely digressing here. I wanted
it's cool. We're probably going to have a lot. It's
just how conversations go. But I did an exercise, going back to what I was speaking to earlier about artist block. I did a little exercise for myself that I wanted to share with you and also the viewers. Bear with me 1 second.
Yes, that will be a Form Terror Fridays first.
Oh, and I don't know if this is going to be hard to see on this little phone camera or not, but I think every artist has, what makes them unique is their visual language. And I think I've spoken on this before in past interviews and in conversations with folks, is that when you look at an artist like Dan Seagrave, there's a lot of repetition in terms of the things that you see appearing, recurring thematics in his work
Mm-hmm.
that become
Yeah.
familiar. They're basically part of his lexicon, his visual language.
Yes.
Not just his technique and style is what makes him unique, but also what you see in his paintings. When you look
Absolutely.
closely, there's a lot of repetition. You see that in my work. I see that in even
Absolutely.
your work. So what I did, and I encourage every artist, when you're so frustrated, you're like, what do I do next? Where am I going to go? This is what I ended up doing. But I don't know if you can see this, but I took just these are just crummy little thumbnail sketches of things from my lexicon, my visual language. I have like, a maggot or a cloaked figure, a sword. I drew, just for you, I drew a mushroom.
Nice.
Eyeball, cross, tombstone, things like that are repetition. Literally, what I did was, these are just crummy, like really shitty little sketches, right?
But they remind you, yeah.
So I just filled in a letter size piece of paper with these things. Check it out. Scanned them, brought them into Photoshop, and this is what I ended up with. These are literally the same thumbnail sketches. I put the stairways in. Did them side by side, put a cloaked figure, added bat wings, put the archway, stick the inverted cross in the middle. There you go. There's a drawing right there. You know what I mean?
Holy shit.
Here's another one. I took the skull, right? Took some tree branches, flanked them on each side, have a mushroom sticking out of his head, and dropped into the stairwell or the stairway.
Right.
And again, this is more of a diagonal composition, so your eye moves across the page.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about composition a little bit later too.
Sure.
I have some samples of that too as a reference point for artist block. But I literally just, on a piece of paper, drew a bunch of things that I know how to draw well or that come easy to me.
Right.
And, all I did was mash them up into a relative.
Cool. It's like you just kind of pick from a handbag, like a grab bag.
And that's
your tried and true. Yeah.
It's just an easy, quick thing. And even if you don't have a customer, like I always have a full production schedule. I every once in a while I like to pause and draw something for myself that I can use for like the Riddick art brand, for merchandise and stuff, or flyers or whatever. So that's sometimes like something I might do is just take these things that are very comfortable for me to illustrate and mash them up, and then I have a finished piece, that I can have printed on a shirt. So even if you don't have an existing customer at the moment, and I know a lot of artists do this where they have unpublished work laying around, and bands, and you get these requests probably, oh, I'm in a band, we're about to go on tour, we need art, do you have anything laying around? I never do. I very rarely.
I don't either, man. I just got hit up from someone just recently, and they wanted to buy something that I've been selling prints of for a while, and I was like, I don't feel like that's for you. Like that's
right. No, I hear that. So that's just a quick exercise. Another thing I threw together too was just think about something simple like symmetry. So I just drew up some quick little compositions.
That's awesome.
And these are simple. You trap a drawing inside of a circle.
Yeah.
Maybe you have some of it cutting out of the frame to keep so it's not so sterile, or a triangle.
Yeah, I love that.
Just think of a shape, or even like this. Like one thing that, sorry, I have this upside down. One thing that bands go nuts over these framed illustrations. So even just drawing a frame and maybe putting like an archway or maybe some subject matter in the middle is a quick fix to artist block. Just think about shapes. I mean, here's another one where I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
Again,
a little higher if you can.
Yeah, very simple compositions. Also,
I love the first one.
Considering stuff like usually stuff in 3s and 5s, like an odd number, typically works better than an even number in terms of getting a little bit asymmetry into a piece. Or even doing something with depth, where you have something in the foreground that kind of leads into a background.
Yeah.
Or even just taking something like a piece of bark, like just draw a piece of bark, and then just draw some planets around it. Now it's some kind of otherworldly thing, that's non-describable.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Just little things like that. Think about shapes and just apply apply your lexicon to those shapes, you know, whether it's a frame, a square, and you're good to go. You have a finished piece. Those are just some quick fixes I feel like
That's
might be.
awesome. Those are so valuable, I'm sure, to so many people that are stuck. And I think that they can do it their own style. Hopefully, they're
Yeah.
not just going to take what you're doing.
No,
But I am
and if
certainly
they
going
take what I'm
to use
doing,
this exercise to help me. I mean, I started getting out of a funk recently, especially from Lucas Court telling me about electromagnetic imagery. Holy shit.
that's crazy. What a cool idea that is. You know, look at
So cool.
microscopic
Like,
imagery.
yeah, the only thing is, like, it's so overwhelming because there's so many cool fucking, like, things to look at. So you have to, like, be able to pause the screen and look at it and go, okay, I'm committing to this. And it's not been easy. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah, I
you
hear
don't want to
that.
commit all of it, you know, you want to
Right.
like use elements from it. So I'm trying to still figure out how I can do that. Essentially like what you did on paper,
Right.
but like on a screen where you have like, you know, things to choose from. But I love that it's on a piece of paper because you can see all of them and kind of play bingo. You know what I mean? You can be
Right.
like, all right, I want to take a little element of this, a little element of that, and get started, and then maybe see where that goes.
Exactly. And you know, and sometimes even just putting those elements together can realize something new for you, like, oh, I didn't think about attacking it this way, or approach giving it this approach, or
Yeah.
maybe it's giving me an opportunity to try something a little bit different. Maybe I see potential in it that I didn't see before, you know.
Yeah.
By the way, I see Parker and Mortis art on here. Both dudes. I have some of their originals over here too, so it's cool to
Nice.
see them. I have something being framed right now that
Hell
Parker
yeah.
worked on. I got a Mortis, one of his pieces framed over here on the side. It's cool to see
Fuck
these
yeah.
guys on here, showing their support. I appreciate that. I appreciate everybody's.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks, guys, for tuning in and checking this out, really. I just want to point out, I saw a couple of questions. Let's try and save questions to the end so we can scroll up easily and go down the list. If we have any questions, just hold off, keep them written down somewhere. Appreciate it. Because we won't be able to scroll all the way up and, you know, it's not going to be as easy. So just keep that in mind. Thank you. We do appreciate the questions. I'm sure that, you know, we'll get to them. We'll make sure. I also want to point out to you, Mark, I don't have a time constraint today. I made sure to clear my schedule. So if you want to go 3 hours, I'm totally cool with it. If it's too long, that's fine too. We usually do about 2 hours, you know, but I feel like we've got a lot to talk about. I mean, this is like, there's so many things that are coming up that are so relevant to my thought process anymore, or so important to, I think, many artists that are constantly going around, rattling around in their brains about making art. And I find this extremely valuable, and I hope that everybody else can use this video as a guide or a tool whenever they feel stuck. Especially, like, thank you so much for showing us a visual representation of that. Like, because like you said, like, it's not as easy, you know, to like imagine it.
Yeah,
you might as well be able to. Yeah, so we really, I appreciate that. Thank you.
No, it's I was just gonna say it's one thing to articulate it with words, but I feel like there's always more power in visualizing something for somebody. I mean, we're all artists, and probably a lot of people who are watching are artists too. So I think they understand the power in that, the effectiveness of having that visual tool in front of them. I apologize. There's probably no way to upload it visually here, but just to show it on the screen, hopefully you can see it okay through the phone. I know the lighting's a little wonky in here.
I think we saw it. Like we really appreciate it. Yeah, no, I saw it well, and I think that other people will say the same. I just want to ask you, when it came to making those thumbnails like that, did you just take ink on paper, or did you use a pencil and then go over it?
Let me look really quick.
Because for me, that's always been a challenge to just go ink right onto paper. I always feel like it's pretty messy if I do that. I've never been one of those artists that can just like, oh, I'm going to draw a sword real quick and then actually have it look like a fucking sword.
Oh yeah, these were started in pencil, these little thumbnails.
Awesome.
But these were strictly pencil that I blew out the levels on.
It's pencil. Okay.
Yeah, that's their pencil. So I mean, I just blew it out so the contrast would be higher, so you could see it better on on
That's a
the
printout. Okay, all right.
but yeah,
So
it's just they're just shitty little pencil sketches,
well,
tiny little.
I would beg to differ that they're shitty, but because you're at least able to see what they are. But like, like I understand, and I was just curious because, like I said, like there are artists out there that can just like perfectly articulate like some sort of, or not articulate, perfectly like represent certain imagery with pen on paper, like just ink on
Yeah.
paper, and I'm like blown away by that. Like it's always crazy to see that, but that makes me feel better, like knowing that like you're doing it with pencil because like, yeah, I mean, are you erasing those though? Or are you just kind of going light and then going in darker like after?
It's hit or miss. Some stuff I erase the pencil lines. Sometimes I sketch something and I'll look at it. Sometimes I sketch something else. I always scan my sketches in because I need to send them to the customer for review.
Sure.
So sometimes if I'm looking at a sketch, I might flip it or turn it upside down to see if there's anything like kind of weird about it. So sometimes I'll actually, with my sketch, I'll manipulate it a little bit in Photoshop and then print a
I
blue.
do that too. Yeah.
Yeah, so I print a blue line out, so I might not have pencil erase. It's just a blue line print. So sometimes, if you ever look at some of my originals, there's even sometimes some blue behind it, and that's because it's a blue line that I print out,
Yeah.
whether it's
Yep.
so it makes a little bit of a slight moire pattern in it, like a halftone pattern in the final art. But to me, it's not a big deal. With this pencil sketch stuff that I ink, sometimes I forget to erase this pencils, and I'll just leave them in. I feel like there's some character in showing that visceral nature of the art.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Like I knew some artists are very much computer based illustrators,
Yeah.
and to each their own. I mean that's a tool, right? Just like my pencil or pen is a tool, and that's fine. I just for me, doing it analog is just the way I've done it for the last 30 years, and I'll never change that. I love the visceral nature of it. I love to show the imperfections. Sometimes there's beauty in even with music. I love even imperfect music, like if a beat is off on a part, somebody messes up a riff, or maybe maybe it sounds like
the
shit.
humanity of the creation.
Right. It gives it that human flavor, and
absolutely.
Sometimes if it's over polished, I'm like, it might be great songwriting, but if it's over polished, it's too much. I want to hear the errors. I want to hear
like sometimes when you don't play to a metronome, for instance,
right?
Like when you hear music evolve and ebb and flow, like I appreciate that. Especially, I mean, I speak half biased because part of me doesn't really like. I'm not easily able to play to a metronome, but I'm getting a little better, and I think there's importance to it. But I think there's also, like you said, like I think like in art, like tying it back to art, visual art, there is like this human element to it that you can appreciate all in itself.
Right.
And I think that's like, it kind of goes to, people that are very like militantly putting their foot down about like saying that you're a poser if you only listen to music digitally. If you don't have physical format stuff. I get it, and at the same time, like I totally appreciate physical format over digital format now, and it took me a little bit to turn that corner just because of like being like financially not able to support that idea. But going back to art, I definitely think that like having pencil scratches in your artwork is something that speaks to the character of the creator, for sure.
Sure, it gives it that human element, and I mean it's a very uniquely human thing to be able to not only create art but to be able to appreciate, enjoy it, and even it's as a utilitarian aspect to it as well. But I think what makes art really interesting is that we're surrounded by the natural world, we're surrounded by nature and reality, and so art gives us an escape. It's an extension of nature that lives within the brain. And to explore that, it needs to be manifested somehow. And I think that's just one of the art is one of the products of that manifestation, and it gives it's just such a raw form of communication that it's not just something of value or of bliss for me, but perhaps it's a it speaks to other folks and
Yeah.
without having a word exchange. It's a people
Yes.
find solace in your work that you know you might not expect.
Right.
But it's just such a raw form of communication, just human communication. And I
Yes.
think it's in a lot of ways a necessity, especially when you look at the utilitarian aspect of art and design, and how involved and how we're just engulfed by it in our daily activities.
Yes.
How dependent we are on the convenience of like even the push button on your phone. You know,
Exactly. Yeah.
there's somebody thought to design in that fashion, and really, when you think about it, the creative mind is what helps us evolve as a human race.
Absolutely.
If we didn't have creativity, we wouldn't have that inkling to see the gaps, to see the how to correct a problem, to see the
Yeah.
potential in some kind of future thing that makes our lives more convenient.
Exactly.
Even just going back to this whole Form Terror Friday thing, I mean, you had to have some kind. You saw a void, and you found a creative way to fill that void. Here's a forum for artists in the metal community to communicate and share ideas and thoughts, and there's value in that. There's value for the folks who are involved, and there's value for the folks who are interested in that. But I think that's one of the powers of our minds, to have that ability to be creative and to problem solve and to, I mean, we wouldn't evolve without that. The invention of the wheel, for example, we wouldn't be invented if we didn't have creativity. What if I do this and put it together, and now I have something new that my life depends on, and whether it's big or small. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of power, and just I feel like self-affirming purpose in having that ability to be creative or to
Yeah.
just
Absolutely.
do it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. 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 I was basically just agreeing, and I just felt like in just saying basically that it's so important to have expression, and being a creative person, and like really harnessing that creativity in ways to express different feelings and emotions, and just ways to cope with the day or whatever, or just get stoked about something and be excited about things and have passion for things. And like you said, like keep the wheel turning in your brain, and stay, you know, uh, questioning things, and continue to push yourself forward in ways that will provoke others to do the same. And yeah, it's super important. And like, and having the ability to, like, it's such a hurdle for so many people to have even the confidence to not only put pen to paper, but to actually afterward put it out there for others to see. And you have to commemorate the people that have done that and really pushed it, and made a career out of it. And it's like, it's just super inspiring to me, because it's a passion of mine that is scary but unknown. And like, it's that path of it's like, and trying to be your own boss, and like not have to answer to another person or authority. It's like the way that skateboard culture like has kind of expressed itself, shown like it's a punk rock thing, like just to exist in your own world, do what you want with that building, that structure, skate that shit. You know what I mean?
I think there's some interesting points. In terms of art being sort of an outsider isolation is sort of it's just an outsider thing. Even metal culture in general, when you think about that, it's such an outsider kind of thing to be into.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to folks who might feel a little bit indifferent somehow or another. But going back to the confidence issue, there's only one you on this planet, and if you have the ability to express yourself or create something, I I, I don't think it should be left unsaid or unspoken. It should be honed and nurtured and shared, because
Yeah.
because it's one thing for you to create, and I think all artists or creative types in a lot of ways create for themselves to be their own boss, if you will, to be the master of your own universe, and a nice little He-Man reference there. Um, but it, you shouldn't be afraid to share that. I
Yeah.
think if it's one thing for you to find some comfort in it, but if somebody else can find potential pleasure in what your creation is, then
Right.
it shouldn't be left on the shelf to collect dust.
Right.
I actually want to ask you a question. What is the one thing that you enjoy most about being an artist? What one thing is most important to you?
I guess I really appreciate just seeing that I've created something, and I can be proud of something weird that no one's created, like no one else has created. Taking what I've learned about being alive and applying it in a weird way that expresses something about my subconscious or something that is uniquely me, to be able to hold it in my hand and say I made this, or to be able to show it to other people and see how they react, or you know. And I guess like that it definitely goes with a validation thing, you know. Like I would be lying if I didn't say that I really appreciate when people appreciate me. But I think that's most people,
Right.
especially on Instagram, of all things. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
but yeah, I think to answer that question simply, it's to be able to say that I made this, because I know that I'm capable of doing something creative, and I have so much creativity built in my head. Sometimes I used to get so overwhelmed that I wasn't using the best of my potential every day. Like I would get really frustrated at myself, because I feel like I could apply myself in so many different avenues in life, and I would get like anxiety about it, and it would turn into negative for other people to have to deal with. And I've learned to harness that and understand that you can't be everywhere. You have to just embrace what you're doing in you know, like set a course and
Right.
work towards something, flow, you know, on a ship toward a certain direction. You know what I mean? Like have a place that you're sailing toward.
Right.
Not like, oh, what, I could be on a ship and I could sail this way, and I could be on a train and I could go this way, or I could be on, you know what I mean?
Having a set.
Yeah, separating yourself, stretching yourself too thin. It's something that I was a professional at. um, and I've learned to sort of like hone in on things that I feel more passionate about in the current moment of what is going on around me, and to embrace that, instead of just being like, I'll take a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then I'm going to be crazy. You know what I mean? Because I used to do that. Like,
Right.
part of me feels like I could do comedy stand-up. Part of me feels like I could do like video editing. Part of me feels like I could do an animated, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just,
Yeah.
but I want to do like obviously, like, you can go from one and transition to a new thing and build. And I think that I've always had an issue with,
Like staying the course.
yeah, and trust me, oh my God, like staying the course is
Well,
like,
it's interesting. I mean, I think this actually kind of touches on that concept of branding, visual branding,
sure,
because you know you set a goal for yourself, and you know you set these achievable goals so that you know that you're making progress, and success is all, it's relative. It's defined by yourself. Shouldn't be defined by people outside of you. Should be defined from within.
absolutely,
And I feel like branding kind of comes into play, because if you're an artist and you want to put your work out there, I think one thing that's been very vital to my path as an artist is just keeping the course, keeping steady, not having a ton of expectations. And
yeah,
you know, once you stay on course for quite a while. This is my case. I've been on this course for about 30 years.
mm-hmm.
Um, stuff just comes your way. It falls in your lap. You don't have to go looking for anything. It just happens, and you
Well,
don't set that
yeah,
expectation. And there's some the element of surprise. What's coming next? What's around the corner? What commission am I going to get that's going to blow my mind? I don't know, but it'll happen. You just because I know I'm going to keep doing. I'll be doing.
exactly.
Assuming I still have my health, I'll be
Yeah.
doing this again. The same thing in 5 years from now. But um, I think,
Doors open
yeah,
when you push if you continue, not to cut you off, I guess I
no,
just
go
want
ahead.
to touch on that. Like you were saying, like things fall in your lap. Yes, but they don't fall in your lap like without the work behind it.
Exactly.
Like you're not gonna just be passionate about a thing but not do
Yeah, you can't be
you
lazy.
know what I mean? You're gonna so I don't know if like fall in your lap is something that I would like say like yes and no, because yeah, I think like doorways open because
That's
like
what I mean. That's what I mean.
no,
Um,
and totally like I
but
see what you mean, but like I don't know. I guess I just wanted to because
yeah,
I think like some people might think that because you're like doing a thing that you're all of a sudden gonna like get to the next level. You have to work at that, and like I've learned that
and
it's
it
not
takes
something you
time.
can just expect. Like you said, you have to have less
It's
expectations and just push forward. Keep your nose to the grindstone. All of the things that you would
if
say is
if I
that.
when I look back at my 15 or 20-year-old self, for example, and when I look now at the clientele I've dealt with or the things I've had opportunities to work on, I mean, I would never have fathomed it. It's not like I necessarily set out to do those things
Yeah.
specifically. They just happened because I stayed the course. I worked hard. I didn't give up. Granted, there was a little break in the
Sure.
late '90s to early 2000s, but if you just keep at it, and that's some advice I get. Good advice for any artist is that you have to, and you touched on this before in one of your earlier comments, is that you have to have a passion. If you're not passionate about art or being creative, then it's probably not the right thing for you. You
Yeah.
have
What's the point?
you have to sincerely love what you do, and be able to work through some of the frustrating moments, whether it's artist block or a difficult customer. Being able to work through some of those things and just keep doing what you do just for sake of loving doing it. I'm a bit of an existentialist when it comes to my worldview. I view that there's no meaning in life. There's no reason for being. The only reason for being I have is a reason I put before myself.
Yes.
And no matter that sounds futile, but it gives
No,
me
but it's real. It
life.
is a very it's raw. It's a
It
raw
is. I mean,
feeling that people don't always
it's
they're
just stark.
scared to say.
It's a stark viewpoint, and I don't expect everybody to share that viewpoint at all. But it's my viewpoint, and it's sort of this harsh reality that all life is suffering, and the goal of life is to maximize the pleasures and minimize the pains. And
Yeah, man.
I just find pleasure in art and being creative and being able to contribute.
Yeah.
Speaking of like some of the like one of the things I enjoy most about art is just, and it used to be, and it still is sometimes, kind of like what you described, having that finished product, having that end result, say I put this out in the world for others to enjoy. There's certainly some value in that and some joy in that, but for me it's mostly just the escape from the day to day, just to
That's
have
a big
a
thing
moment.
too, man.
I don't care if it's 15 minutes or 3 hours.
Yeah.
Is in my life, it's very rarely a long stretch of time, just because my lifestyle is so busy. But um, when I have those moments, I sincerely enjoy them, and it just kind of it puts my mind at ease and at rest. And really, like I care more about that than the customer I'm working for, the what the art's going to look like when I'm done with it. I care more about just having that time to
That's
myself,
awesome.
and that's just where I am in my life.
Sure.
That's what I find most valuable.
I
And
mean, that's awesome. I think that speaks to the work that you create because, like, you can. I think you can see that in that, like, because of the consistency, because of the iconic imagery that you create, it feels and even like going back to the thumbnails that you have to pull from when you get creative block. Um, Yeah, like that's something that is like, and it's not going to be every artist that looks at something and they go, that was really weird what I did here. Like sometimes that consistent thing is just a way to, like you said, like to escape or get somewhere like Zen for a while. You know what I mean? And that's okay. That's awesome too. Like especially when you're cranking out such sick death metal art while you're doing it. You know what I mean? It's
I
not
mean,
like some fucking
I,
like flower.
it,
But you know, I'm just
it,
saying like that's an interesting idea because I mean like, and I feel like there's a decent amount of artists that would say that it is therapeutic to sit and sometimes yeah, I mean like I'll sit in fucking silence and not even realize it. And I'm like, holy shit, I was like meditating basically, like doing this, you know? So there's something really valuable to that. And I think that also goes back to getting the most pleasure out of life and the least amount of pain. And I think that also like even in an existential mindset, you can still push positivity out and receive positivity back.
Yeah, it teaches you to embrace when you know that your life is finite and this is my only opportunity to make an impression.
Yeah.
And you know, I can't say that like I couldn't do anything. I wouldn't be where I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if I didn't have music, a love for music first. You know, a vehicle for which a platform to showcase. And same with all the other artists involved in this music scene. You know, we're so dependent on that to kind of give us a vehicle to share our work.
Yeah, we need to always make sure we ground ourselves in this specific thing to know that like this is all about underground metal. Like I'm not doing this to just talk about art in general really, because like that's what the focus is. It's like it's something that's a little more unique to it is that we're talking about underground metal art. We're talking about commissions from sick death metal bands. We're not talking about making a cool piece so we can put it in a gallery to feel, you know, whatever. But
there's always a purpose, which is cool. I mean, it gives the time that you spend, even if you're having that pleasure and enjoying that moment of peace and quiet or whatever you might be listening to while you're working.
Right.
There's still always an end product, and I actually one of the things I enjoy is just being able to help another person or another band to visually represent their art and their creativity, and you know, obviously through my own lens as a creative type. But I think there's definitely some joy in that. In terms of what I might love about what I do is just being able to help, being that lending hand, or like I've had so many situations where a band's in a bind, we're about to go on tour, or we need a centerfold for this LP or whatever, we don't have anything to put in there, you know, whatever the case might be, just to be able to say, I got your back. Like I can, I mean, I know you need it in 3 days, but I can do this in 3 days. I'll make it work. And just to know
to represent that, like to be that,
or just to be that person to be able to help. To me, that's appealing. Like I enjoy that aspect of it too. Even if it might be, you know, like high pressure, needs to get done quickly. Just to be able to say, yeah, don't worry. I'm like, or even it's like a band, you know, a band that you like, a band that you love. I don't care if it's an old band or a new band. If I love the band, I mean, I get so excited when I get to do something for a band I genuinely enjoy. So for me, it's not only like I'm helping this, I'm helping this band out. Like I get to be part of what they're doing, and that's
the underground metal, like fucking. That's the code, man. You help everybody, lift everybody up. If you're into the band, represent it. If they like you, you get to feel that satisfaction of helping them get to a place where they can represent this awesome music that they've created, and they get to represent your awesome artwork that they appreciate. Like that's so fulfilling. Like
it is very much. I think that's probably one of the more exciting aspects of being in this scene. You know, this or whether art music scene, is just having those opportunities to be able to work with the folks whose music or work you generate. I mean, I've even collaborated with other artists, and just to be able to collaborate with other artists, that's fun too. You know, that's rewarding in a very different way as well. But I have to ask you, since we're kind of on the topic, Do you have anything that you're working on right now? I know you just recently shared Gut Void. I think you did something for Gut Void. Is there anything? What are you
Yeah.
working on right now?
Um, okay, well, I guess I'll just, I mean, I can say bands, I guess, but I can't say, like, I mean, I don't know.
I don't mean to
I'm not
put you on
really
the
sure
spot.
where I can go, like what I can say I'm working on. I said I've already mentioned that I have something in the works with Thra, which I've done their logo for. They're a
Cool.
sick death doom band from Arizona.
Okay.
Really rad. You should check them out. They're going to be doing some really sick shit. I think they're going to be playing with Skeletal Remains soon, which is
Okay.
sick.
Awesome.
I think I can't remember off the top of my head. They have a pretty awesome show coming up. That maybe I got that wrong completely, and I'm just being a
It's funny.
fucking
I
idiot.
was just in communication with Skeletal Remains yesterday, so it's funny.
Nice, nice. That's awesome. I'm working with. I mean, I don't think Jason's gonna care.
What am I?
I'm working with Night Hag. I
Cool.
really love them.
I haven't heard.
Samuel from Virginia is a homie. They're another awesome death doom band.
Okay.
Rotted Life.
Okay.
And I have, what else can I mention? I mean, I guess like, I don't want to mention everything. I don't have, like, I'm not like some big wig, like fucking, I'm not like some big shot, like working on some awesome, crazy, art that I'm like, oh, like, I don't want to come off like pretentious about it. I'm just saying,
That's
like,
not
I'm not
pretentious.
sure who I can mention I'm working for right now, but I have some cool stuff in the works. That's vague.
That's cool. No, I'm excited. I'm excited to see when you reveal it. I understand if you can't talk about it. Some bands are like really weird, and even labels are kind of weird about stuff. Getting out there too soon. So I kind of understand it. It's a bit of a frustration, and I'm sure you can relate as an artist because you want to keep your social media or your web presence sort of consistent. I've been sharing like a lot of older stuff lately, just because I don't. I have a ton of stuff that I've finished already or that I'm working on. I just can't share yet. So
yeah.
understand that.
It's definitely one of those. It's like a very unique, weird frustration, I think,
Yeah.
for underground metal visual artists.
Yeah. Like it's funny you mentioned Jason. I worked on something for a Rotted Life band recently also that I'm excited to share, but I don't think I can yet. So
Exactly. Like,
you know what I mean? And Jason's cool. Jason, I remember Jason from, I don't know if he's watching, but I'm assuming he still runs at Malignant Records, which was, I have some of his old labels releases. It's more like experimental, dark ambient type stuff. But Jason's been involved in the metal scene, I guess, for a while as well. Which I actually knew him from the more like the dark ambient scene back in the mid '90s. It's cool to see that he's very active, and especially now with Rotted Life, really picking up some speed in terms of visibility and people enjoying their bands. But no, I mean, those sound like really cool opportunities. One thing I was going to mention that I really enjoyed from your work, but before I get into that, I want to commend you for focusing on this form terror thing rather than the FTG illustration, like really kind of giving a more narrow focus to your style and work. Again, going back to the branding, you don't want to confuse, but you want to keep the brand consistent. So I think that's really a good move on your part.
Thanks, man. Holy shit! Like, I feel like a lot of people like might not have gotten why I did that, and that means a lot. It's just one more reason for me to feel like I'm gonna keep doing it, because it's just a different world what I did over there, and I'm focused on this. This is more passionate for me.
And I feel like that's really key, to have some consistency in the work that you do, just to have that the sort of recognizability factor. It's really key for an artist to I think, and at least in my opinion, to helps them stay more relevant or have some kind of history behind them. But I was going to point out two things actually regarding your art. One, the Bloodsport logo that you worked on, it's got to be like one of my favorite logos. Period.
Holy fuck, man!
I'm really serious about this. I see a lot of logos, and I I love looking at metal logos because they're very unique and they really push the envelope when it comes to typography
Yeah,
and
it's one of
visual
my favorite
brands.
pastimes.
So the Bloodsport logo in general, just specifically that one, is just so different from any other metal logo that I've seen or witnessed. And I just, oh man, just the composition is challenging on it. It works well, but it's very challenging because sort of a diagonal composition. It sort of like veers off to the side a little bit. But not just that, but the texture you built into it, it's just so damn unique.
Thanks, man.
Definitely one of probably my top 10 like favorite logos of metal logos of all time. It's just such a fucking badass logo.
Holy
So,
shit!
um,
Thank you so much.
I want to sing your praise on that, but also did you guys just recently play a show, Bloodsport? Did you guys play a
We
show?
did, yeah. We played Tuesday.
Okay, so I saw, I think it was on your social media that a shirt that you guys had printed had your art, but what I really liked about it that I thought, not just the art's amazing, but you framed it in like a rectangle, but then you opened up the bottom, I think it's the bottom left hand corner with the logo, the Bloodsport logo, and I love that because it's just so unconventional. All these
Yeah, I thought.
the logo's always on top, and then it's art. But you're like, fuck that. I'm gonna put the logo small on the bottom. But it looks
I
great.
had this like I don't mean to cut you off. I just
No,
find it really awesome that you're mentioning this because it was like one of those like I'm gonna fucking do this. Like one of those moments where I just like I knew that it wasn't conventional or like it was gonna be an interesting way to like
Right.
figure it out. And I thank you so much. Holy
Yeah,
fuck.
dude.
That's like
It speaks to your your graphic design skills. It speaks to your graphic design skills, and I just think that's such a. I don't know if you have any shirts left, but man, I'm picking one up. If are they on your Bandcamp yet or anything or?
the shirts.
Yeah.
So the shirts originally were only on Inferno because we had a deal with them where they're printing it, they're selling it, and we get a little cut. This time around, because we had a show local, we reached out to a homie, noisy neighbor, Brian Bodine, who lives out in New Jersey, real close. So we were able to pick up the shirts, and he banged that shit out in like 3 days. He was super cool about it. That's awesome. He uses Discharge ink. It's quality work.
Yeah, Discharge awesome.
And so I'll just sing in his praise for a second. But we will be putting those on Bandcamp. So you'll see an announcement on the Bloodsport page.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Because I'm going to definitely be grabbing one of those, man.
Oh, cool, man.
Yeah,
Thanks so much.
I love that it's unconventional. Anyway, I just had to mention that because it really caught my eye, and I thought, you know what, I like that. You know, you're just kind of giving a middle finger to the conventions of what these metal shirts should look like, and doing your own thing. You know, making it unique. So I appreciate that you gave your own spin on it. And I also have to say that the Ruin shirt that you're wearing, that's funny, man. That release, my other band, Macabre, did a split for that release, and I don't even think that's on Metal Archives, man. I don't think anybody even knows about that shit.
Whoa,
it's weird.
What's the name?
It was a very limited release from a small Canadian label that came out a couple of years ago. But that's what the demo cover art was from that release.
Oh hell yeah!
But I saw Ruins. Yeah, they did Ruin. I'm sorry, Ruin. They gave. I talked to Mike and he asked if they could use it for a show. I was like, that's cool, man. But yeah. So anyway,
I love the circles. I love like the little circles everywhere, like the little eyes,
little eyeballs everywhere.
Yeah, I love it. Those are the sickest.
Yeah,
they just like they don't stick out right away, but like I studied this shirt for a while, and I was like, I love these fucking eyeballs.
It's just filler, man. It's just something to fill the space with. It's nothing over the top.
Eyeballs are like a tried and true. Like, what do I do here? I'll put a fucking eyeball in. It always looks sick.
But it goes back to like kind of leaning on your visual language, which you have in your mind,
of course,
and execute quickly and easily, and just kind of fill that space.
Yeah.
It's just a little part of the story. That moment captured in time that you're illustrating. It doesn't have to be the defining moment, but it's something there to kind of help.
Just part of the composition.
Yeah,
it's kind of same language, but makes it a little more interesting to look at.
It's a glue that binds it. Yeah. Yeah.
Can I give you? I have a list of things that I wanted to get to. Sure. I feel like you've answered some of these questions just being in a conversation. but I did want to talk to you about your process. It seems to be the thing that goes around about your artwork is that you use only printer paper.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk to you about what tools you use, if that's okay with you to share.
Yeah. I pulled some things out again for that too. Just to kind of give you an idea of process.
Yeah.
Bear with me 1 second.
No problem. While he's getting that, I will say that holy shit, what a weird, crazy thing to learn about Mark Riddick's pieces, that he's only using computer paper. Like that's and I've seen a picture that you showed on Ken's Death Metal Crypt YouTube, which shout out to Ken, he's on here somewhere, I think still. And if not, I wanted to definitely bring up Ken. But just going back, I saw that it was bleeding through the other side, and I was like, holy shit, is that just something that he just like did like a one-off for that like giveaway? Or and then I talked to a couple people and they were like, he only uses computer paper.
Yeah.
So is that true?
Yeah, that's true.
That's awesome.
So in terms of process, I usually start with just a crummy, shitty little sketch like this. I don't know if you can see that. This was actually what came to mind. I was commissioned to do a split 7-inch cover for Mortuary Drape and Medieval Demon. So
okay.
I don't think that ever got published. I did the finished artwork, but that was the initial concept, was just on a piece of paper, like notepad. I don't know if I'm holding that up well or not.
Yeah, yeah. I think
it's really loose. It's super loose sketch.
Sure. Yeah.
Like I know what I'm looking at. And then like, here's an example. I was doing something for inoculation, and these are, it's just again like shitty little. I don't know if you can see that well or not.
It's just a little bit. Yeah, it's a little harder because it's a bigger composition.
But
and
again,
is that also inoculation?
Yeah, it's just a little pencil sketch.
Cool.
So it's really simple. Like here's an example of this hasn't been released yet, but I'm gonna share it anyway. I don't care.
A Form Terror Fridays exclusive.
This is, I don't know if you can see that sketch. That started out as just a little sketch, like an idea. Super simple composition. It's almost like the letter U. But I inked this earlier this week. It's for a streetwear brand from the UK called Disturbia. So I'm working on several pieces for them right now. But that's the inked piece, and then the back you can see.
Look at that.
All the marker.
What kind of marker are you using?
So, so I'm using Sharpie markers, different nib sizes. Just kind of standard. This is like a chisel tip one.
Yeah.
And then I use some of the larger king size and Magnum black Sharpies to fill the background.
I love it. Of all the tools that are out there for artists to use anymore that are like specifically honed for ink artists, and you're using like postage markers.
I'm super lowbrow when it comes to supplies, but for me, that again, going back to the character of a piece, showing the sketch lines, leaving it unpolished, leaving marker streaks on pieces.
Yeah.
It just for me, it kind of keeps me grounded in terms of where I got my start in the early '90s as a teenager, just drawing on crummy paper in geometry class or algebra class.
Totally.
And staying true to that has kind of, I don't know, I guess for part of what I'm trying to achieve with my art is just capturing the essence of old school underground death metal. And I've spoken to this before. I apologize if I'm redundant for anybody who's read interviews or seen stuff on YouTube or whatever. In the early '90s, the way that bands would reproduce their demo tape covers and their flyers, it's all in a photocopier, black and white photocopier.
Hell yeah. So
I basically lived at the print store, and the local print store where Kinko's. I think Sawblade touched on this too. When you're speaking with him, but black and white art was, there you go, dude. Is that the original?
I think Luke has really rad fucking tapes.
Is it a repress or the original?
He lets me borrow all of this shit.
God.
It is from.
I don't have that one. Is that like 90?
It looks like an original, man.
It might be.
I'm almost surprised he's letting me borrow it.
That's awesome. Yeah,
There's
they're
Auntie right there signing off on the.
actually I got this right here. This is the first time I heard Demo like was on this compilation tape.
Oh shit!
It's got My Dying Bride. I don't know if you can see that. Again, going back to the photocopy way of doing things, right?
Yeah.
There's My Dying Bride, Dissection, Demolic, Cemetery, Mythic, Putrid, Rotrivore. I probably already said it. Lobotomy. So a lot of the old school bands. This introduced me. This is one of the first comp tapes I ever picked up. I think this is probably from like 90, 91 or 92. That's where I first heard Demo. Like, it's a track probably from that demo that you have right there. It's probably, I think the track was from that demo tape. But anyway, everything was reproduced that way. Is that Crematory?
No, this is Demolish as well.
Oh, it is Demolish. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
It's computer paper, folks. It's copy paper.
Yeah.
Look, it's cut off. It's fucking cut off.
Yeah. Nice. I got a couple old ones here I was going to reference.
Hell yeah. Yeah, Luke has a sick fucking library of rad old school releases, regular tape.
Topsy.
Fucking yeah, I'm honored to live with Luke. I learned so much about death metal living with him. I'm a newbie. He's definitely taught me so much, being in Bloodsport and just like pulling influence from old school death metal and the origin of things. And as much as a space cadet as I am, I'm returning some of the knowledge.
Yeah. So, so basically that's one of the reasons why I draw in computer printer paper is because one, I'm comfortable with it, and two, it's just like a holdover from yesteryear, you know.
Yeah, man.
Because that's what I'm trying to do is preserve this sort of this way of doing things.
I love it.
To hopefully inspire others to carry on in like a black and white fashion, or to make similar artwork, because I feel like it very much captures the essence of death metal, especially the old way, you know.
Definitely.
And that's what I'm trying to do. One of the things I'm trying to do with my art. But yeah, so I basically just I mean you can see like all the, again, here's something I did for Ken, Death Metal Grip Fest. Again, the back you can see all the marker streaks on there.
Yeah.
But once I get the black marker down, I do some touch-up work, some finish. Sometimes I go back with some more inks. If I feel like the contrast is too high, I want to put more grays in there. I'll lay more ink on there. But I usually use white jelly roll pens. Oh, there you go. It's a flyer. Yeah. Oh, if he's on me, yeah.
You call it fetid?
Fetid, I think is how it's pronounced.
Really?
Yeah, I know it looks like fetid, but I think it's pronounced fetid.
Well, I'll take your word for it. It's your band.
Hopefully, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I also use the Pigma. I don't know if you guys can see that.
What is that? Oh yeah, I have
Sakura brush
those.
pen.
I like those, man, because they fill it, and they're. Is that a brush tip?
Yeah, I live by these things, and so when I do my work, I wish I had something in progress that I could share. But basically, I lay down my Sakura brush pen first to get some of the heavier darks, like the darker.
To surround everything that you're making, already.
Not necessarily doing outlines, but just filling in like places where
filling in the full dark. Yeah.
Like the dark space somewhere, I'll fill that in. Like this dude's like his crotch area is like all, you know what I mean? Just something like that.
Just darken that crotch.
Yeah. So don't have to draw a dick in trouble for it. And so there's a Micron pen is the other product I use. So and I know one of the Lucases had issue with some of these, or the old. I don't know if the new ones are turning green or bleeding or whatever, but
he was saying that they turn brown over time.
And I mean, I've never seen that with my work, but again,
looked, and I don't think I've been an artist long enough. I don't know. I mean, like, maybe I don't care that much. Like, it's cool to see my art that I made before, but like, it's a different style. It's a different thing. It's seen some walls in some like gallery places.
Right.
Like, I don't care. It's fine. It's just over there. I don't need to see it.
I'm kind of the same way. Like I'm not an archivist by any means. I'm not. I mean, all my stuff gets stacked up and thrown into a box. So I'm not. I don't take a lot of care. For me, it's about, again, just sort of the exercise of drawing, having that experience. Ultimately, the stuff's ending up on a product, right? So it's cool if I get the product. I don't always get the products that I work on, but when I do, it's cool to have it. But you know, it's really just it's just you know.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I have
stuff.
stuff that I've made here. I'm proud of it. I have it hanging on the back wall. I've got my Bloodsport fucking wall of
Look at that, man.
shirts and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yo, shout out to Undergang. That shit's straight from Denmark. Thank you, Torture Dog. That shit is so sick. Anyway, yeah, it's always nice to have something like given to you from the band that you work for or whatever, just to have it to be like, holy shit, I made this. That's cool. I don't know. That's part of why I like being an artist too.
Check this shit out, man. I hope Chase isn't jealous. Chase, who you had on last week.
Yeah.
This is probably one of the coolest things a band did for me. So Eternal Rot from Poland, UK and Poland. They're always really good. And some bands I work with are very consistently good about sending me final product, and they're one of those bands.
Yeah.
But dude, they sent me this massive 4-book Beksinski art book, like super high quality art book set. So I mean, it's just awesome. To me, that was one of the coolest things any customer has ever done for me. I just was blown away by their
That's
general.
so sick, dude.
They said that to me just because, you know, it's fucking cool, man.
Yeah, I blanked on his name, but once I looked him up, I realized who he was. I've seen him.
Yeah,
you know, I've seen plenty of his work. How crazy would it be if I could get him on an FTF?
Well, he's deceased. He's deceased.
Well, then fuck me. I'm an asshole.
He was actually murdered by his neighbor. Can you believe that? Isn't that awful?
That's brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to get if you want a living artist, you got to get Seagrave or Eddie Brepper or somebody on.
I
here.
do
That's good.
want. What was the other name? Because I know. Yeah, I definitely want to get Seagrave, but that's still really shooting for some high stuff. I don't know. I'm honored to be able to talk to you. I'm going to be going up and down. I've got artists that are just starting out. I've got artists that are you know, coasting right now, and I've got artists that are just like, yeah, like it's really, it's very fulfilling to be able to just see everybody's level of, you know, where they're at with their different with art, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would gladly take a list of artists that you would love to see me talk to, but I also like to keep it in mind that I need to know their art a little bit. Like I don't want to just be like, hey, you're a crazy artist everyone loves. Like, let me talk to you. I want to like come to appreciate the artist that I'm talking to, so that I have genuine talking points, and I'm not just coming off like an interviewer from a fucking like some, you know, magazine that's like, well, I'm told here that you did the blah. Like, I'm never gonna be, you know.
Right.
So I want to be like genuine with that. But please, if you, and you don't have to do it now, we can always talk later online or something. But I would love to hear some suggestions of artists for me to get to know and understand a little bit more, just from a distance, and then maybe over time I'll be able to reach out to them and see, you know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's cool. I mean, you definitely want to speak with somebody whose work you're familiar with. I get that. And like I said before, all the artists you've had on here, I'm familiar with their work, or I even have some of them hanging on my walls here. And it's so cool to be able to hear their voice and to see their face and to hear what they say about their own experiences, and to hear them articulate about their process is just awesome.
Definitely. The only thing is, like, some artists don't want to be seen.
Oh,
And
I hate being on camera, man. But I
well,
was,
thank you for
but
doing this because
I
like
love,
that's really
I love what you're doing. So it's like, hell yeah, man. If you're gonna invite me, sure, I'll, I'll chat with you, man.
thank
Um,
you, man.
no, I think there's a lot of value in what you're doing, and I think it's really, really important, especially for artists who are starting out, you know, who
Yeah,
might not have
I
their
that's
path.
the goal. Yeah,
Yeah, you know, it's just there's a lot of benefit in what you're doing for especially those folks, you know. My advice is just like even if you're a new artist, just put yourself out there and don't if you love it, don't stop. You know, keep going.
exactly, exactly. Can I ask you more cool questions that
Yeah.
aren't really that cool? Um, okay, so we talked about your process. We talked about the paper. We talked about the markers. I want to ask you, how did you start to get interested in drawing skeletons and skulls and drippy shit? Like, where did that come from for you? What's your background in art?
So background wise, I mean, I've always probably like every other artist watching this and yourself too, Fred. I mean, you know, you probably discovered early on that you find some joy in drawing. So just like probably what many other artists would say, probably, you know, in my youth, I enjoyed, you know, drawing stuff like knights and spaceships and warriors and superheroes,
Sure.
stuff from comic books and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. Um, I always,
Hey, what's up, Mark?
oh yeah,
Yeah, he
I'll
said,
play.
Dan said, hey, Mark. Sorry.
What's up, Daniel? Good to see him on here. Um, yeah, so just I would say just you know drawing some of those things that a typical boy would enjoy drawing. But in my youth, also I had an affinity for music in general, like you know what my parents were listening to, and that translated into my own personal love for music. So
Of course.
I started listening to metal, even just really like hard rock type stuff at
Yep.
age 10, and then you know pretty quickly within a couple of years graduated to like thrash metal and death
Yeah.
metal. So I was listening to some of the staple bands, you know,
Slayer.
yeah, or even like death metal wise too. But in 1991, I picked up a demo tape, a local band, and wrote to them, and they sent me a bunch of flyers, and you know, I started writing to all these bands from mostly the U.S., but some overseas as well. You know, doing the tape trading thing, buying demo tapes, buying 7-inch EPs, underground fanzines, all that. So I became really immersed in that underground culture as a teenager, and I felt that that was a perfect venue to publish my art. So, you know, I was seeing some other artists, and this actually I pulled a couple of old fanzines. Like here's one from I think Sweden called Mortician Numbskull. But there's like you know there's really cool art in there. I think one
Oh,
of
that's rad. I
yeah
love that shape.
yeah that's cool. I think they actually published one of my pieces in here too. Um, but it's got like a lot of some of the older bands like God Forsaken and I don't know Unholy from Finland, Soror Side, Godsend, Mortification, you know Dark Millennium, so stuff like that. But also just being exposed to you know some of these frame illustrations. I don't know if you can see that. It is an
Yeah.
old issue of
Yeah.
another
That's a
Swedish
whole
fan.
other topic I wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah, Hammerheart Records. That's a Hammerheart Records interview in here.
Right on.
But yeah, so Putrefaction magazine from Sweden. Um, just seeing that stuff made me realize, oh yeah, I can do that too, you know, or I would like to do that. I always
Yeah.
sort of liked, you know, some of the other artists like Pushead and whatnot, obviously that you know I've been exposed to in my youth.
Sure.
And this is like a way for me to do work for these cut and paste fanzines. So that's kind of where I got my start. And basically, I mean, I'm doing the same thing now at age 45 that I was doing, you know, at age 15. So it's just,
Hey, man, if it
it,
works, you know,
it,
like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like it's just you have become, like I said, like you're an iconic artist in skeletal drawings and skulls and I'm just wondering, like, did you
well,
study anatomy? Did you study the human skeleton like as a child or like in school, or did you
no,
like just start getting interested in drawing them because of metal and all that? Like,
Yeah, it's more of a metal thing.
cool.
You know, I'm sorry because I think I kind of digressed a little bit from your original question.
Oh, you're good, man. Don't worry about that.
I think what I'm trying to achieve is just this sort of um, just something that emanates decay, something that catches the eye. Because what you want to do with art, not it's not the only purpose or function art serves, but to capture somebody's attention for a brief moment in time and to entice a feeling or reaction from them. I think that's definitely one of the things I'm looking to achieve with my work, and just to depict the human form in this really just disgusting state of decay is a little bit horrifying.
It's sick.
And there's there's an inherent curiosity, morbid curiosity in our
Sure.
nature. We're surrounded by life and living things on a daily basis, and rarely do we ever confront death, even though we know
Yeah.
where we're going to end up.
Yeah.
But to push that, and I think even metal culture in general embraces the sort of thing that typically gets swept under the rug by most. That's why,
Yeah.
again, going back to that outsider thing, we're not thinking in conventional or behaving all the time.
No.
We're thinking to anything conventional. So
That's what I love about metal, man.
I mean, it makes it unique, right? And it's a very personal thing for a lot of folks. But there's that sort of that enticing thing about it, that this morbid curiosity. So I guess one of the things I'm trying to say with my work is just to give that sensation or that visceral reaction from somebody that, oh, just that moment of pause.
Yeah.
Whether it's somebody might be in awe over the technique, or it could be the subject matter. I don't care. I think that's one of the interesting things about art is that, again, going back to that sort of raw communication that I mentioned earlier, that it doesn't use words. It's not as literal. It is all visual, but to still speak to somebody in that sort of emotive way.
Yeah.
It's just such a uniquely human thing.
Right.
But in terms of like instruction, I took the art classes in high school. Went on to be our president of the art club, and in high school, and then I went to college and art degree in studio art with a concentration in painting.
Oh, shit.
Had some really good professors, good teachers along the way, who were very wise and also very talented. But no, in terms of anatomy, I mean, I think one of the beautiful things about art is that, while I can appreciate realism, photorealistic art, I think that speaks to an artist's ability to have amazing technique, or amazing ability to translate reality in such a realistic way. But I think one of the things that's really valuable about art is presenting that fantasy. Again, going back to that extension of nature, that thing that lives in the mind and not and around us. To be
You're seeing it in real life. Like, why would you want to recreate that if
exactly
you do other things?
And
yes, I think what you said. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step.
No, it's okay. I'm not trying to devalue photorealism or anything like that.
Exactly, that's what I was.
There's art, there's artistic ability in that, and talent and creativity exercised in those venues. But I prefer, like, this is an issue of preference. And going back to art, a lot of artists, in terms of what you like and enjoy, is left to the subjectivity, preference, and taste. So there's that comes into play. But no, like anatomy, I think I took actually the one life drawing sketch that I saved. I actually pulled it out. It's it's from 1995.
Say again.
This is from 1995. I don't know if you can see that.
Whoa.
It's a pencil.
I love how you just like have this. Did you pull this out for this, or did you just have this?
No, I mean, I had it and it's stuffed away in an old portfolio case, and I pulled it out because I know you've been asking a lot of the artists about life drawing. I mean, so no, I only have a couple courses in life drawing, but one thing I found useful for artists. I apologize because I'm going down another pathway here, but
don't apologize. Like, this is all really awesome. Like,
going back to the photorealism, like when you're drawing a skeleton, for example, I'm not interested in drawing every rib in the rib cage. One of the things that's beautiful about art is that ability to trick the eye, to lie, because art is kind of like a lie. You're fooling the person to believe what they're seeing is what they're really seeing. Their brain is filling in the gaps. Like, I don't need to draw every rib in the rib cage. I just need enough of an impression that that's a rib cage to
Yeah.
convince the
Yeah.
viewer that this is what they're indeed ingesting, visually. So I think that's one of the cool things about art and it being so engrossed in fantasy and not and almost being unnatural in some way,
Yeah.
or in a way an extension of nature, going back to that concept.
Right.
Um,
I just want to point out real quick a good example of that ideology. Frazetta.
yeah.
He was constantly
Oh, yeah.
making things just appear like like you said, like tricking the eye, or like because you just accept it for what it wants to represent.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily need to be a completely rendered thing
Right.
to represent that.
It's amazing what some artists do with just the negative space or the black area in a piece.
Yeah.
It's so little like on the page in terms of information, but it's enough information to give you an impression that you can have an entire leg or half of a body just literally black ink. I think a lot of artists struggle with that because as humans, we try to exercise our reasoning abilities, and so we're trying to rationalize. I got to draw every little nook and cranny and make it look real. No, just sometimes giving the impression of that it's there is enough. Even if
I love it. Yeah, I mean that's something that I super appreciate about your ability to represent what it is you're trying to get across, like with whatever the composition is, in a simplistic way but effective. It's just super smart. Like your decisions that you make, what's black, what's white, what's falling and what's like dripping, and where it's completely dark or where it's just got some hatching. You know what I mean? Like that stuff to me is so important, like in my studying of art, to understand how I want to represent mine. And I still struggle with it all the time. So
that's a trial and error thing. I mean, it comes with again building that second nature and having to practice, because I mean, it's not like I said I always felt like confident or comfortable drawing. I knew I was good at it, but no, like I really wasn't. It's just that I practiced it enough to get to where I'm now. It's like any other person who takes on any other endeavor. The more you do it, the better and more comfortable you get with it. So just exercising my brain, and
it's like muscle memory almost.
Right. So I mean, that's really all it is. I mean, I'm terrible at something. I'm terrible at mathematics. Things like that.
Me too, man.
You know what I'm saying? There's stuff that it's not. You can't be good at everything.
Exactly.
But artists where I felt comfortable and what I chose to exercise, and I can find appreciation and value in other people's abilities, whatever they might be. Like football, for example. I like watching football, and I can't play football to save my life, but I respect these other people who put the time and dedication and use their talents to find some kind of gratitude, to find purpose in their lives.
Okay.
So I enjoy stuff like that, or even just watching people bake cakes on a reality show or something. I mean,
sure.
That's awesome. I'm seeing these people do something that I can't do,
totally,
but they're still exercising their creativity and using their artistic abilities to make something that seems to me otherworldly. It's kind of like you probably had somebody look over your shoulder and be like, "Wow, how do you do that? That's crazy." I mean, for you, it might just be like, "Oh, okay, it's no big deal. It's like taking a piss or something," but for them, because they can't do that, it's easy for them to step back and admire it, And I think it's it's good for everybody to have something they can step away from and admire. And actually, this kind of goes to something Daniel Sawblade and I were talking about a couple weeks ago. We were chatting on the phone, and he was telling me that we were talking about how there's always other artists who are just going to be so much better than you. And I feel like we both agreed, it's so important to have that, to have artists or, in your field or maybe in another genre that you admire and that you respect and whose work that you can appreciate.
Yeah.
And I'm a big proponent of that. I mean, I surround myself with this. I've got so much stuff on my walls from different artists
That's awesome.
of different, different, have their own approach, have their own style, have their own level of ability. But I can find some
I also,
enjoyment, and even some of the newer artists like Parker and Nightmare Imagery. I mentioned. I don't know if I mentioned Nightmare Imagery yet, but just there's
yup,
just something awesome, so awesome about like their style and techniques. It's very there's just still something new and fresh about it that I can, even as an experienced artist, can stand back and enjoy and appreciate and
that's
really
awesome.
really get into.
Exactly.
I always feel like that's important to be able to look at your peers and to the community should be built up and not torn down. I think the metal scene, there's some tearing down and some gossip. It's like that's just like what you're doing here with this Form Terror Fridays. I mean, that's just building the scene up, and that's a positive thing for the scene. I think that's one of the many things the scene needs is to have that positivity in it.
Thanks, man. Like, yeah, I don't know. I always try to provide to the metal community as much as I can, but I never feel like I'm doing enough. I always feel like I don't know, like I used to feel so guilty about not buying physical music. I just felt like such a poser about it because
Poser is such a demonized thing, right?
I know it is.
What is a poser?
Totally.
I mean,
I guess it's just like one of those things where like it's a negative term that I bring up now because it's representing how I felt about it. It's not like, yeah, it's an irrelevant like idea because really everybody's learning or doing something. There are people out there that are just like putting on this front, and that's lame, and you shouldn't. But I like to think of, and just because I'm like newer at something doesn't mean like I'm trying to act like I know it. You know what I mean? But I try to be a part of things as much as I can that I'm passionate about. So especially for this, like I go to shows. I make sure to try to like support the bands around me, not only because I want to lift them up, but because you get what you put in
exactly
back to you. If you want your friends to come to your shows, you should go to their shows. Like, don't just be a musician and be like, I'm the shit, like I'm gonna play this music and then get upset if your friends don't come, like you didn't go to their show. So I feel like this guilt sometimes I can't go to my friends' shows, and I don't know, and then it's just on top of that, it's just like I admire so much talent and so much creativity that comes from death metal, comes from underground metal in general, doom, fucking like death doom, like fucking gritty, gross, fucking evil shit. And it's harnessing a specific kind of feeling that you don't get from other walks of music, that you don't get from like other metal bands. Like there are just certain things that you just get a visceral appreciation from, like just basically being able to make horrifying sounds. I appreciate it. Like, so I try to be a part of it,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, some of that goes back to taste and preference, but I do think that inserting yourself into a community, so long as you have good intentions, is a very positive thing. And again, the poser word is certainly a word that gets tossed around a lot, but I think it's because music, this kind of music in particular, is so personal. Going back to that, being so personal to folks, it almost feels like you're being inducted into like an occult community of some sort, that's
gatekeeper
hidden.
Stuff, yeah. Gatekeeper, damn.
Yeah.
3 beers deep, boys.
I get that mentality, and I think I used to share some of that mentality too in my youth. But now as an adult, like growing older, I'm like, I don't fucking care. Like, to each their own. I don't see the point in tearing people down and just come on.
No, yeah,
it's a waste of time.
It's not worth it. There's nothing really like that's gonna come from it that's positive. Like if you're already miserable and you're gonna put out that misery by calling other people, like telling other people that they're not as good, or like tearing people down like that, you're gonna get just more negativity coming back from you.
Yeah.
If you're open and understanding of like people getting into things or doing, fine, like whatever, like if you don't like their like way of going about it, like yeah, I think mostly that word is tossed around as a joke. There's
Possibly.
not there, like, but it is,
Yeah.
there is a validity to breaking it down and like saying like it's like that hipster word. It's like the same kind of thing. There are definitely applied, like there are there are definitely like things that you see that you could apply that word to that feels accurate to people. And then the same thing with the poser word, but it definitely is, it's coming from a place of degradation, and it's like
Right.
it doesn't encourage people to get better at doing things or like be more knowledgeable of things.
If somebody wants to like a band or like a drawing, let them. It's their
Yeah,
prerogative. That's their
totally.
taste and their preference. Even if it's short lived, whatever. Who cares?
Sure.
Speaking of something non-poser, I see Roy on here from Necroharmonic. So I just want to
Right
say,
on.
Roy, I've been in touch with Roy for a very long time, and that
Hell
dude,
yeah.
man, Roy is just such a dedicated supporter of death metal and has been since the early '90s, probably '80s even. So shout out to Roy.
Got some killer bolt thrower flags on his website.
Yeah,
Eyeing them
okay.
up for a while.
Yeah, yeah, he has a lot of cool stuff. Got a couple of his products for sure. Um, but yeah, Fred, I probably have to take off pretty soon because my wife just got back with the kids. So I'll probably have to do some entertaining for a little bit.
What time is it right now? I just want to make sure that, like, I don't want to keep you any longer than you are able to stay on.
I,
It's six.
I apologize. I,
No,
I
you're good. It's six
I could talk
forty. Is it?
art. I could talk about this stuff for hours, man.
I mean,
Music, art, whatever.
if you're interested, we could always continue this conversation at a later date and at a
Absolutely.
different Form Terror Friday, if you'd like.
Yeah, I'd be totally cool with that.
Hell yeah.
Also, I need to find out a way to get one of your if you're willing to part with one of your original pieces to add to my collection here. So,
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
maybe do a trade or something, or if you have something to purchase, I'm cool with that too. Whatever, I don't care. So
We
but I
can chat
definitely,
about that. That's Thank you.
yeah, I'll
I
send you
would
an
love
email.
that.
I'll send you an email about that. So I'll
Excellent.
hit you up in a little bit for that. So
Oh, questions. I'm
sure.
sorry. Can we do some questions before you
Yeah.
head out?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's see what we have here. Anybody that has questions, now's the time to put them out. I'm going to read Nightmare Imagery. That's Joe. Question: any chance of repressing any old books? Been looking for Compendium of Death for years. That's also something I had written down. He also put out one called Logos from Hell, and I need both of those if I can find them. I want both of those, like, so bad.
Yeah, those.
But yeah,
No chance for a reprint at the moment. Those books sold out. I mean, the Morbid Visions book, the 2016 book. I think that had a longer that was available for a longer period of time because we pressed more copies. The Logos from Hell book I think sold out in like 4 months, and I haven't. It's never repressed. And Compendium of Death sold out pretty quickly too. But people keep asking for those things. I was in touch with Lucas um, a couple months ago. He used to run Dementia Records out of the Czech Republic or Czechia, whatever it's called now. But he no longer runs a label. I think he's doing he's sort of like a middleman for GZ Digital Media, doing vinyl pressing under the X Vinyl X brand. So
yeah.
he's probably responsible for like a lot of the vinyl you buy from metal bands or metal labels. Lucas
Okay.
has a hand in that somehow. So he's the one I worked with to get those books pressed, and it became very cumbersome on my end just because shipping all these books are big, bulky, heavy, and sometimes
Sure.
the ship. It might be too much for me to handle. So I was actually going to publish a book this year with heavy metal artwork from the UK, and
Yeah.
my backup hard drive crashed and I lost all of my my files from like the
But you
like
have them. You have the originals.
I have originals like laying around, but I'm not about to sit down and rescan like 400 drawings. So,
Pay someone else to do
so
it.
I maybe I'll do another book at some point. I was talking with Sawblade about maybe doing like a fanzine thing, where we do
Yeah.
like, maybe get a couple artists involved. What I would really like to do, and part of the inspiration came from what you're doing with Form Terror Fridays. It'd be badass just to like take some time, write a book about underground death metal art.
Holy shit, man!
And then
That would be.
just get like 50 artists, or old and new, and just write a new book or do a new Logos from Hell book or something. I would love to do that. It's on my to-do list, but it's just time, like finding time for it.
Yeah,
But
sure.
I mean, I can guarantee you and all the folks you've already interviewed would be in that book, no doubt. And even some of the folks
What
watching.
if you had different labels take on like paying to help
Yeah,
with
I
the
mean,
publication of these?
I was gonna maybe pitch it to like Fantagraphics Press in California or something like that. Somebody with like a bigger distribution chain.
Yeah,
Just to give it a little bit more visibility outside of the metal realm, even just so that the passerby might be able to enjoy it. Just for maybe introduce somebody to another, because I mean it's essentially we've created our own art culture. In the past 30 years, we've created our own art culture, and I think there's something to be said about that. So it's just something like in the back of my mind, like maybe I'll tackle at some point. But
yeah.
but no, like all those old art books, they're really hard to come by. Maybe something's on eBay. I have no idea. I might have a few copies left, but I just kind of saved them for my portfolio.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe one day
Part with those.
I'll get rid of them or send one to somebody. But
Well,
um,
so what if you did like a raffle and we raised money to be able to pay for the publishing of these books?
I don't know, man. I'm not. It's not like I can finance it. I mean, the thing for me is I'd rather like just give it to somebody and say, here, you do it. So I don't have to, because I don't have the, my
No, I get it. I do understand.
what I mean?
But maybe there's a way for you to outsource that idea.
It
But
could.
I'm just saying, like,
It could be.
I think it's worth another revisit this conversation, because, like, I think there's a lot of people out there that would appreciate a copy of those books and more. Like, it would
Oh
be
yeah,
really
no,
cool
I,
to,
I
yeah.
I agree. I mean, just or even just a book about metal art in general. I mean, it doesn't even have to be my stuff necessarily at all. I'm thinking for me, it doesn't have to be about me and my work. In fact, the Logos from Hell book, the only reason why I included my work, I have a couple of my pieces at the end, and it's only
Yeah.
because I finished the book and I sent the PDF around the artist, and Chris Moyen was like, dude, where's your stuff? So it's like Chris Moyen kind of twisted my arm to put my own shit in there, so I'm like, all right, fine.
Huh.
But it was definitely like cool because I was able to collaborate and get all these people's input and
Yeah.
feature different styles of artists. But it'd be cool to do something, either another logo book or just a book about underground art in general.
Maybe, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I think we should really talk about this some other time, that we figure out a way that we could make a new book or include maybe something that was from the old book in a new book. I don't know, but like, I would love to do like what you just suggested. Is not something I thought about before, where I have the artists that I've had on or whatever, and then there's like maybe like a page of them like talking about some things and like a piece of their art. I don't know, but I mean, like, I really would love to talk about this further some other
Absolutely.
time for sure.
I think there's definitely some potential in that. But regarding art books, no intention to repress the old ones. The new ones I'm working on, I had like literally a little over 400 pages laid out and ready to go, and my drive crashed and all the links got broken. So I'm like, oh well. With
Ouch.
Because it's kind of like my 30-year anniversary doing this stuff. It was going to be perfect timing, but
Yeah.
this didn't work out that way. So maybe later. But I was talking to Sawblade about maybe doing something like really like photocopied fanzine kind of style thing where it's like a little bit like, you know, more raw and unpolished. It doesn't have to be a nice coffee table thing, but just some kind of like fanzine format would be kind of cool.
Right.
But who knows? Again, a lot of it just comes down to time. Time is definitely the hardest thing for me to manage, just because of all the obligations going on.
Of course.
But yeah. So
Okay,
yeah,
so
started. That was kind of a lengthy answer to the question.
yeah, but it's okay. It's Dan Sawblade asked, what grade of pencil do you use to sketch things out? Number 2 lead? Question mark. Luke, if you want to come down and say hi to Mark Riddick, now's your time.
This is just I just use these mechanical pencils. I think they're number 2 lead, but it's really light. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like a regular pencil. It's just a mechanical pencil. That's what I've been using lately, at least for the last year or two. I've been using those. Nothing there. Yeah, it's really simple.
I have Luke from Bloodsport here to say hi.
Nice.
Hello.
How's it going, man?
What's going on?
Nice to meet you.
Likewise. Thank you for the kind words you gave to our split. I saw.
Oh yeah.
That's
That's an awesome release.
Thank you so much. We were showing your Demolish tapes. He was he loved seeing the photocopied old school.
Oh yeah, man.
Demolish tapes.
Yeah, did you get the?
That's like right there.
Yeah, I pulled them out, but he wanted to know if they were represses or if they were originals.
One is an original, the rest are all dubs.
Nice.
Hey man, like I said, he's got a really impressive collection, and I'm a newbie, so I'm learning.
Yeah, and I owe all of it to the drummer in my other band, Basilisk, for introducing me to half the old school.
Nice.
That dude is a librarian. Got nothing on Ken, but he's a librarian.
Word.
All right, take it easy, man.
No problem, man. Good to meet you.
He's gonna go fishing.
Oh, okay.
What's that?
No, that's cool. That's awesome. That so you still have some connections to some of the old schoolers, which is cool.
Yeah, he definitely. It's rad that he's able to provide some things for me to learn about old school death metal for sure. All right, so there's a couple more questions, I think. Mark, do you part with originals? Would love to own one for my collection. That's Morbid Sorcery. He's a rad artist as well.
I'll have to look him up. It sounds kind of familiar.
Oh, he's great. Yeah.
I very rarely do. It's mainly just because I guess I don't make the time to like put stuff and make it available. Like maybe once a year, I might have something available through my web store that's an original.
Yeah.
Like if I do like a commission for a band, most don't ask, but if one does ask for an original, I usually will try to send it to them. Most of it I just retain and just hold on to. And some stuff might be a little bit harder for me to part because it might have more sentimental value to me for whatever reason, like whoever the customer was, or maybe I like the way it turned out or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I just usually just don't make the time for it. That's one thing I struggle with. That maybe when later on in my life when I guess I'm more seasoned, I'll do that. Start getting rid of some originals or something. But we'll see.
Okay. I mean, I would consider you seasoned, but I wouldn't also want that to come off as like saying you're old, because
I am old.
You're not old. Dude,
I feel like it.
You will live on. You're a legend.
Man. Wait till you're an old man. You know what I'm talking about.
I'm already, dude. My back hurts every day I wake up. I'm fucking 32. All right, so. Another question is, do you use references as far as buildings and backgrounds go? Yeah,
in some cases I do, some I don't. Just like most artists, I have like a reference folder I keep just as a point of, if I see something in the wild that I'm like, hey, that's cool. But yeah, I mean, that could be a little tricky. I usually try to start with something simple like an archway and then kind of build off that. I think
that was in your list of things to pull from.
You can still exercise some creativity with some of that. The only time I really deal with backgrounds, not really it's very common in my work, but if I'm doing like an LP cover or a CD cover, I might consider a background, because the bulk of my work is just like floating art on black space. just because a lot of the stuff I'm working on is for t-shirt reproductions. So, you know, when you get a background involved, it gets a little too hairy. You want there to be a quick and easy focal point on a piece. So like a lot of my stuff doesn't involve backgrounds. But if I do, I might look at like some old like Greek architecture or some like Greek ruins or something like that, just to kind of spark some ideas.
Yeah.
Or even just
Okay.
taking simple shape. Because when you think about art, I mean, it just shapes mashed up together. So just
Yeah.
think of simple shape and just building on that even.
Exactly.
Or
Yeah.
find like a starting point to kind of elaborate on. I feel like can be an easy way to do that. But
Yeah.
like some things like clouds, for example, or smoke, I'll look at like different ways. And I think Matt Steiker may have talked about that in his interview. Because I feel like fire and like smoke can be challenging, and there's different ways to approach
Can you
that.
spell his name?
Oh, that's Matt Bargain. Ben Blasphemy, Matt.
Oh, you said okay. So you said sticker, and
I don't know how
I'm
to
just used
sticker.
to saying sticker. So
Sticker, maybe. I apologize if he's watching that. I hope I didn't
you're
butcher
good.
his name.
Don't
But
worry about it.
he spoke on that too, I think. But looking at other artists and seeing how like, well, how did Gustav Doré or how did Lucas Regelli or how did Matt Stiger draw smoke? Let me see how he did it, or Daniel Shaw, maybe, you know.
That's
Just
that's
to
the
see.
whole reason I'm doing it. I want people to be like, oh shit, that's how he did that.
Yeah, because I mean, I think you can learn, and you just figure out, well, which one I want to try. You know, and you might
Exactly.
try
Yeah.
maybe it doesn't work out. Maybe you try a different way, and that works out. So you'll see in some of my work, like maybe I've approached it differently in the background of something like a burning building or something. Maybe smoke
Sure.
different. Sometimes I'll just stipple it, you know, with like a jelly roll pen and just keep it simple.
I like that.
Just adding like also too like doing the backgrounds or even foregrounds in some case. Just trying like a different texture, like a thatch work. There you go, man. Jelly rolls are awesome. Just trying different textures too. Kind of help set a background off from what you want your focal point to be. Like stipple tends to be a little bit lighter and airier, not in softer approach, not as harsh. So sometimes that technique might be good for handling a background. Yeah, man, you're all set.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay, so okay. Let's see. Is there any other questions? How do you choose the bands to artwork for? I think we covered that. I think you probably, I mean, I don't want to answer for you, but it sounds like that you take on a lot of artwork that isn't necessarily always your favorite.
Well, I mean, like right now, I get a lot of requests. It's almost daily, and so I'm definitely turning down way more than I'm accepting.
Sure.
So just like yourself, I know you mentioned this. I have to be more selective. So it either is a repeat customer who I love working with. I might not even be into their music so much, but if I love working with that person and they're really awesome and cool to me, I'll take that. So I'll take repeat customers in some cases, and others like maybe it's getting. I'm trying to think like maybe it's getting reproduced on something unconventional that like I wouldn't anticipate ever having my work published on, like on a belt or like shoes or something like that, or a lighter. I might take that just for sake of seeing my work reproduced in a different way or
in a different way, yeah.
Product. So sometimes I'll do that, or even maybe the concept I know I can nail pretty quickly. I might take it for that reason, or maybe it's just a risk or a challenging piece that I want to challenge myself on. Maybe I feel like I need a challenge, and I'll take it for that reason. So.
Sure.
There's different reasons. I might like the band. Maybe it's a new band that's starting out and just wants to leg up somehow. They're taking a chance asking me. I'll say yes, just because.
Oh
like,
yeah,
I want to help out underground bands too. You know, and a lot of the bands I work with are underground bands. So
nice.
I want to stay rooted in the scene. So I'll take on just like a mix. You know, like the last I just did. The two recent pieces for two different film franchises or film related things, which is not metal. It's not metal, but it's different, you know.
Yeah.
So it's, okay, I'll you know, again, it might be that might be the reason, because it's like someplace I don't get my work published very often, you know.
Yeah. No, I mean, I see what you're saying. Like, it's always cool to see your products, and like see new products of your art, like
Yeah.
things that you usually don't work for. If it's something that can stick out, it makes more sense to embrace something like that over bands that you're not as interested in. But and I think it's really admirable that you like to take on new bands that are trying to get out there and do that thing and have, you know, and take a chance and reach out to you. And that's really fucking cool. And I think that's what makes it so, I think that's what makes it so, what I appreciate about you being involved in this underground scene that's still, you know, it's thriving, in especially in a sense of like underground death metal, which is at like its third wave at this point. Like, you're very active and socially involved with people on the internet, and it's really fulfilling to see someone from like you said, yesteryear, like from when things were starting to evolve into something so powerful in this genre of like metal, and to see you, yeah, it's just actively participating in things. It's so fulfilling, and it's inspirational. Absolutely. I think people get really stoked to see artists that like they grew up seeing art from, still in the game and still providing that creative flow for people to push themselves in creative ways themselves.
Yeah.
Like, that's super fucking cool. So thank you for that. Like,
no, it's, to me, it's important to me. It's, you know, one of the, you have to wear a lot of hats when you're an artist, and one of them is just being able to network with folks. And I mean, I've dealt with literally thousands of different people, you know, in the last 30 years, and you just make a lot of connections and some friendships along the way. And it's, I mean, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing without again, their music as a vehicle for my work. So I don't know. It's just, I guess because I'm also so passionate about the music, and I'm a lot of metalheads my age, they tend to like, oh, I just listen to the early stuff. You know, they don't want to, but there's so much damn good music coming out.
Yeah,
out.
and that's admirable.
Why?
That's appreciated.
I just don't know why you would turn a blind eye to that. I mean, there's so much.
It might just be because it's overwhelming. I can't speak
Maybe
for
I
them.
don't know.
There's a lot out there, you know, and I think that
good music's not done being made. Let's just put it that way. I mean,
oh, absolutely, yeah. And anyone who disagrees is just being stubborn.
Yeah, or just stuck in the past, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I do feel like, you know, there is definitely some added value in being a participant, active participant. I don't know if you mean like social media. I'm personally not a fan of, and I don't engage on social media, but I publish to social media. But all my engagements like through email, you know, basically. So
well, I mean, I think this is what I mean by engaged. Like, you're actively participating in what I'm doing, and I really appreciate it. And to see you, like, you know, jumping on an Instagram post and being like, this is rad, like, that is enough for me, you know what I mean? No, to see that you're involved in what's going on.
I'm always curious, you know, and I'm like any other music fan, I want to find good stuff to listen to.
Yeah.
I'm going to be, I have my ears to the ground, you know?
Yeah. And also, like, another big thing that stuck out to me was of recent when Ken's Death Metal Crypt did a special, you know, hangout with you. That also elevated things, because Ken's Death Metal Crypt has kind of become like a lot more popular as of late, and it's and people have seen just how reputable and knowledgeable this man is, and how much like crazy fucking stuff he has in his head about rad music.
Yeah,
like, he's got such a huge collection, and like, it's so inspirational, and it's so, yeah, it really pushes people to really get more involved in the scene that they're a part of.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to see the artists that visually represent the music also be a part of it, and have people that are like I said, seasoned in understanding where the origin of this music came from to teach people that are younger, that are appreciating it now and learning about it now, myself included, is really awesome. And I feel like super, like it's pertinent to the evolution of, or not even the evolution, but the ability to stay alive.
Right.
You know what I mean? In this culture that we've built.
Oh, absolutely. And
built.
To me, I think it's awesome that, I mean, Ken is great. I think what he's done, he's become very much a resource, very important resource for archiving and documenting this history of music that would otherwise could be, left on a shelf somewhere, or in somebody's old, box in a basement. He's bringing that to light to all the younger generation. And
so
I've
cool.
had some great conversations with Ken and Dylan from Rotted and Phantom Slaughter from Warm, even outside the one that was publicized online on YouTube. We've had other conversations outside of that, and just Dylan and Phantom Slaughter in particular, they're still in their late 20s, and that they have such an avid interest and genuine curiosity about this movement of music that existed when they were just, toddlers. To me, that's awesome. Like folks in your generation too. I mean, you're in your early 30s, to have like a genuine love and passion for this kind of music as well, and to be curious about what came before you. And I mean, you can't control when you're born, right? So, I mean, I'm fortunate. I had the opportunity I had when I had it, and that I even happened upon it for that matter, because it's changed it changed me to where like this stuff is my lifestyle now. I live, breathe, and do something related to metal every single day of my life.
Sick.
And it's just part of it. And there's no way to shake that. It's just part of what I've become as a person. And to see other folks like really engaging it, especially like younger generations, to me just reassures that you're right. There's some sustainability to this bizarrely niche form of music that most people probably turn a blind eye to because it's just too much. But I think that it has something unique to offer, something unique to say, and it speaks to us as humans somehow. Something about it that's appealing. It challenges our norms, and I feel like it's important to question norms in some cases. So.
I have I think one more question. Let me read this real quick so I understand the gist of it. Okay, that's a decent question. How would you go about getting known in today's day and age? But I think, let's see, hold on. He's got like a kind of a longer, I always wanted to cover and merch stuff, but never really know how to go about it. So would mind checking, but he wants you to check out his art. Nemesis Fortuna. And then I just want to say, I was hoping that we could touch, maybe we could push this to another time, but I was really hoping that we could touch on the importance of crediting artists properly. I don't know what kind of time constraints you have. I understand your family is probably there and looking for you to be a part of the family, so I don't want to take you from that. If it's something that we need to postpone, like I didn't expect to get to everything today.
Right, yeah. I mean, like I said, I could talk for hours about this stuff.
Totally.
Art crediting artists, I mean, it's a hit or miss thing. I wish, I mean, I've been in that boat where I'm either credited or not credited. And like, I've kind of to the point where it's like, I don't care. I know it sounds weird. I think it's the appropriate thing to do to credit the artist, but I'm not going to get too bent out of shape if I'm not.
Right.
And that's just me. Like, other artists might feel differently.
Yeah, but I guess try to look at it from a perspective of someone that might not be as known.
Like here's a new molder. This is
Hell yeah.
it's a fantastic cassette release.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that's Nev's artwork on the front. Pretty certain that's Nev from Gruesome
Possible.
Graphics. It's hard to see when it's reduced to small because it looks highly detailed, but I'm pretty sure that's one of his pieces. But there's no artist credit in it. And I know Mulder should probably know better to credit the artist, but at least I don't recall seeing the artist credit in here. Maybe I missed it. Oh, maybe it is in here. Hold on.
Okay, good. Because I was gonna say you're about to call out Mulder. They're gonna come after
No,
you.
don't get me
Man.
wrong. I like Mulder, and I think this is actually really good tape. I like it a lot. Anyway,
Yeah.
I mean, whatever the case, like I know because I recognize his work, but yeah, it would have been cool if he got a credit on it. And maybe he did. I apologize. I didn't look closely.
It's all good, but I think like I understand where you're coming from. Like,
but you know what I mean? Like, to me, it's just like a courtesy, but I don't expect it. Like I've seen stuff shared on social media where even like by massively big bands that like, yeah, it'd been cool if they credited me, but they didn't. But whatever, who cares? Like I don't get that bent out of shape about it. But I do think like it should be certainly a courtesy. And in some cases for bands, I feel like it could be a point for advertising. Like let's say Nightmare Imagery did your T-shirt or your album cover, plug that, T-shirt illustration by Nightmare Imagery. To me, that's a selling point because anybody's familiar with Nightmare Imagery's work, he's been picking up some pace, his stuff's, and
yeah.
me at least for newer like underground stuff, his work's known. Even Nev too, he's been doing this for a while. People recognize his work. That's a selling point. If people know who the artist is, maybe they just want to, like, I bought plenty of shirts. Just, I might like the band, like, okay, but the main reason why I bought it is because I love the art, love the artist.
Yeah, there's no art credits on a shirt, really.
But yeah.
There's just logos that I like to put my logo on every shirt design I make. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, so. I mean, I don't even sign my work. I haven't signed my work for years. I probably should. But to me, I feel like it gets in the way of the art. I know that's kind of weird, but that's just my own perspective on it, that's just my
interesting.
It's a preference.
I mean, yeah, that's all good. I guess I guess what I wanna I'm always gonna stress this point. I think that because it's the artist's livelihood to be recognized as the artist for whatever they're representing, it's important for whoever's commissioning them, whoever's paying them to represent whatever they're creating, to properly credit said artist, because it's just as important. Like in that visual representation, if you really love something that you see on the cover of an illustration on the cover of a release,
yeah,
like
you want it,
man, like that's what's bringing you in to listen to that music before anything else.
Don't get me wrong. I completely agree. The correct and right thing to do is to credit the artist. I think that's very important. But just for me, and maybe it's because I've been burned so many times, like with that sort of thing, like I just kind of numb to it. It's just like when people steal my art or, use it on whatever, a bootleg or something, like I'm like, okay. Like, but that's just me.
Dang.
I've seen it happen so many times that I'm just like, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
I know this.
I mean, it must be. Honestly, that's so cool to be at that level. But I don't think there's a lot of people that can say the same. Like,
I don't have time to police that. You know what I mean? Like, that's not my main concern right now. My main concern is getting the job done for my next client. You know what I mean? Like, that's my focus. And I know that's sort of a weird, probably a kind of a shitty attitude to have, but that's just, I'm just being brutally honest.
I think, like, a person of your artistic stature, it's a different perspective and it's understandable. So it's really not, and I don't expect anyone, like, at a certain, like, I don't know, it's, I just wanted to touch on it because it's something that I find very important. And it's something that I do get upset about. And it's something that I get bummed out about other artists not getting credit for.
I think it's especially tougher for artists who are newer and starting out. Like, you're depending on that credit line. Because you're trying to get your mark. You're trying to get your you're trying to get your milestone moment. And maybe because I feel like I've been doing this for so long now, I just, maybe I used to get more upset about it in the past, but because it's such a repeat thing that it's
I got you. Maybe, yeah, like you said, you're numb to it. Like,
and again, I just to reiterate, it is a right thing to do for the customer or client to credit or reference the artist. And in fact, I think in a lot of cases, it's actually to their benefit to do that, because they're going to sell more product if it's
exactly,
like a particular artist's work on it. Like Sawblade or somebody. I mean, come on, like you want to market that a little bit because that's a big deal, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, I would implore you to consider that, like, just because I don't know, like, I'm not trying to become like this like militant asshole about it, but
no,
I
think you're right.
See it too often.
I think, like I said, I think you're right about it. I'm just telling you from my own vantage point. Like,
sure,
that's the point I've reached. Like, I guess
it's all good.
Sort of
I think it's super badass that you're in that standpoint, honestly.
Because it's going to happen.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm talking over you.
No, it's fine. I mean, that sort of thing's going to happen. I think it happens to every artist, and I hear that it's frustrating. Yeah. But I'm glad you're bringing that up, because if there are any bands watching this, then now they know better. At least
I mean, I hope they
keep it in mind.
understand like the importance of it, because
that's also like what I was touching on earlier too, because like I said, some bands are like super awesome about sending me finished product when it comes out. Others just fucking forget, or they don't care. Everything.
Right.
It would be awesome to have everything, but I'm not about to take the time to be like, hey, send me this. I just don't have time for that. If I really want something, I'll go. There's been so many occasions where I actually had to buy the product with my art on it because I want it. Just for me to make sure I had it. I know it sounds stupid, but I'm too lazy to even write the band about it.
It doesn't sound stupid. I know what you're talking about, and sometimes you just have to. But
it's sometimes you bite the bullet on it, and it's just a habit. And again, it's not super frequent, but
right. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. Like, I guess I have so many other questions now, because like we keep like touching on things that I want to like open like full ass fucking doorways into new conversations. But like, I guess like when it comes to like that kind of thing, you could always include it in your terms and conditions. And I don't know if you have terms and conditions when you do artwork. No,
I don't.
Like and that's cool, because like it feels like you just pump shit out, and then that's it. Like, and if there's any like complications, you just kind of move on, and that's really sick. But I just don't know if every artist can speak like to say the same. Like,
right.
There are definitely complications when artwork is being like stretched or like sized up and it's pixelated, and all that shit can be in terms and conditions. However, like, what kind of real like legal action are you gonna take? Like, you could take it into like small claims court, I guess, but what a fucking hassle, man. Like, just an asshole. It's really there to just be like, hey, here's some things to remind you not to do. Like, please, because fuck, that sucks.
Yeah, some people don't go to, they just don't know better. I recently had that happen. I spent some time on a cover. I really liked the way it came out. Like, I was comfortable with the way it came out. I was happy with it. And then I got the final product and it's all stretched out. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what? Okay, well now.
Okay, well at least there's a thing that irks you about that.
Yeah,
like,
but I'm like, you know what? I get that gut reaction. I'm like, ugh, and then I move on, man. It's like, okay, well, fuck it. Time to do the next thing. And that's just, again, that's just...
You don't say anything? You're not like, hey, that's...
No, I don't... Dude, I don't...
I do. I just don't have, like... I'm a little too OCD to be okay with that kind of thing. Like, some
artists have a ton of... They're very protective of their work, and I respect that. I'm not that person.
Right.
I just, again, going back to... I enjoy drawing. I enjoy that part of the process. And it's not to say that it's the right way. It's just, that's just for me, my preference as an artist. Like, I can let that stuff go. I can let some of that stuff slide.
That's sick.
This is me. Like, for me, it's just like, man, I just enjoy fucking drawing, I mean, I'm sorry, like, it didn't turn out right, but the next one will turn out right,
Sure.
So I'm like, I'll let that one go, and then on to the next thing, and it's like, cool, and now I have this thing that turned out better than I thought it was going to turn out, like in a finished product, or printed better than I thought. And And I've had stuff that, I work hard on and it gets printed and looks like shit. And it's just like, yeah, it's disappointing in the moment, but I've learned to let go of it so quickly. And honestly, like, I don't have time to be like, and I get it. Like, if you're protective of your work, I respect that. I respect that you take the time to educate the customer. Like, hey, you might not want to do that to the art just because it's not how it's intended. I respect that. I think that's so vital. It's just for me and my lifestyle. I don't have fucking time to be sitting on my computer
I got it.
doing that kind of email, and that's just
I hear you.
me. Like, I'm not an admin person. I don't like you talking about like contracts and terms and conditions. I've worked with artists. I've hired artists to do shit for my other bands, and they have terms and conditions. I respect those, and I stand by them. But for me, like, I don't have time for that bullshit. Like, I just don't. Like, I don't care enough to. To me, again, it just
That's so badass.
no. It's kind of
so cool.
it's kind of a terrible attitude.
I
And,
mean,
and
dude,
I hope
it's part of who you are, though. It's like, it's rad because it's just like, you just don't give a shit. Like, you just do it, you make things, shit happens, you move on, you fucking just keep crushing work. It's awesome. That's part of why you're fucking, like, so appreciated, like, so admired in death metal. Like, that's, or and beyond, like, just your artwork in general.
I guess
But,
just
like,
this is a personality thing too in a lot of ways. Also, I feel like
but,
again, I value other artists and their approach and their technique and the way they handle their business and what
right.
they do.
Yeah.
That this is my style. I'm just more chill about it, I guess.
Yeah.
And
But you, but
that's just me. Like, that's kind of my demeanor though too. I'm just kind of more of a laid back kind of guy. I don't know.
that's
Maybe,
all good.
I'm not
Yeah,
trying to
I mean,
tear
that's great. I think most of
down,
us
but
would wish that
but
we were that way. I suppose I do too, but, like, I don't know.
no,
It just irks me.
I think there's value in educating the customer. That's really important. And like, if you're creating a brand for like a business, or something like that, you want to spell out, don't do this to the logo, for them so that they can properly put their brand into the world. But for me, like, for one album cover, I'm not gonna.
Gotcha.
I don't like that happened, but I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna lose my mind over it. I'm not gonna lose sleep over it. It's on to the next thing, and
Cool.
that's in the past. Now, time for what's next on my production schedule to tackle.
Maybe I'll fight your battles. Maybe if I see something
Please,
pixelated
if
of yours, I'm
somebody,
gonna be like, you should be ashamed of yourself.
if somebody has the time for that, please.
Yeah. All right. So I want to touch on a couple more things before we. I want to let you do. If you really have to go, I'll try to explain to everybody that we can't get to maybe every question, but Yota Cravo, awesome fucking artwork. I would love to hear Mark talk about any specific art struggle that might have affected him at some point, be it imposter syndrome or comparing himself to others, whatever it may be. It's a really good question.
No, never experienced that imposter syndrome. I've heard of this, but I personally never experienced it. But I just feel like you have to be comfortable in your own skin and comfortable in what your own output is. So many artists get hung up, especially younger artists who are starting out. They're like, "Oh, it's not good enough." Sorry, like, that's you can judge yourself all you want, but if you're not producing, you might find joy in drawing it, but if you want to produce something and have it published, you can't sit there around and be critical. You have to move on. You have to put it out there, and people's taste and preference is so different. It's just like if you cut an album, not everybody's gonna like it. Just like you don't like some stuff that you get. You know what I mean? That you might buy an album anticipating it being awesome, and it ends up being like mediocre, fine, whatever. You have your taste and preference. Everybody's gonna have that. So you have to look past not only your own self-criticism, but the criticism of others, and just produce. You learn to get comfortable with your technique and your style, and it takes a while to develop that. In fact, I feel like it's sort of a never-ending development because all art, with each piece, is a new learning experience, a new building upon what was whatever was prior to it. There's no masterpiece that's ever created. There's only improvement and practice, and there's so much that the mind can is privy to that you can create, that there's really no,
Yeah.
there's always a fount of knowledge to absorb. And I think that's one of the many purposes of this forum here is to share this knowledge and to be able to build upon our own practices, to learn from the other artists in the community. But no, I've personally never felt that. I don't think anybody else should be feeling that. Be comfortable with your own abilities and just keep at it, and you'll improve. I mean, I actually got I pulled a couple old pieces. Like here's something from '93, I think. Yeah, 1993. It's a fanzine cover from 1993, and I mean, I did the logo on the back too for Torched Records from I think they're California based.
Sick.
But yeah, and when I look at it now, I'm like, I mean, come on, look, I don't know if you can see it very well. I mean, it's beginner. It's beginner Mark, and what I'm doing now is different. My style's changed a little bit. It's formed into what I'm doing now, and it's the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now is because I kept doing it over and over again and never got to the point of being too self-critical. I think it's important just to move on. And if you love drawing, then just fucking draw.
Yeah. A question came from R. Gabriel. It says, "What black ink do you use for filling the background?" And I think you showed that it was Sharpie.
Yeah, Sharpie markers. Yeah,
different Sharpie markers.
I found that the white jelly roll pens respond pretty well to the Sharpie ink.
That's awesome. That's great to know, because sometimes, you're using certain kinds of ink, or you're using some certain kinds of white, and it just doesn't mesh well. So
trial and error.
Necroharmonic asked, ever consider animation?
I've done a couple animated GIFs. I did an animated video for Voicefarian from Belgium once. Not easy to do. I think it'd be cool to do like a short film or something, maybe down the road. Who knows? I did just work with an animated feature film that's, I think, releasing next month. Did a t-shirt illustration for it, supporting the film, and looking at that, like being able to be in touch with an animator was pretty cool. So maybe I have my foot in the door there. Who knows? Anyhow, I would like to experiment with that maybe sometime down the road. I just noticed it could be a pretty time-consuming process. So to be taken away from what I have on my schedule right now and just the way things are going, it'd be tough to make time for. Just kind of like talking about that book concept.
Yeah,
it's in my brain and it needs to manifest, but it's a matter of me like carving out some time for that sort of thing. But I think it'd be awesome as a way to like have a physical product to document, a period in time.
Right.
But animation would be cool to experiment with at some point, but no, I haven't done anything too extensive in that area.
Gotcha. I did want to be fair to Nemesis Fortuna that asked, how would you go about getting known in today's day and age? And he always wanted to do cover art and merch stuff, but never really knew how to go about it.
All right, so I have a couple points there. When I started out in the underground scene, everything was done by mail. There was no internet, and so I could illustrate like a fanzine cover, like the one you just saw. And maybe 100 people would see it over the span of like 2 years, right?
Right.
Now you can post something on social media and like 3,000 people see it in 3 hours. So
for you,
no, for anybody. Like that's what I'm saying. It's the potential there, right? And I didn't know what to expect with Instagram. One of my friends was like, "Dude, you gotta put your stuff on Instagram." I'm like, "I don't know. I hate social media." And they finally twisted my arm to do it, so I started doing it. And that's just
I'm glad you did.
Let it sit out there and stew for a while, and you have this sort of more visibility, I guess, after letting it just saturate in the ether of social media for a while. But I think social media can be certainly a beneficial tool, definitely more efficient than like the old school photocopy mailing things used to be back in the day in terms of getting visibility. Now, if you're trying to get published, social media is a good reference point for your work. And I swear, I mean, there's so many bands out there who need artwork. Think about, if you look at Metal Archives, hundreds of thousands of bands. Those bands need
So many.
They need some kind of visuals to accompany their music, and so
Absolutely.
there's no reason why any artist who's looking to get published can't get published, because there's opportunity out there. I mean, I started out small doing stuff for, and I mean, like I mentioned earlier, I'm still doing stuff for like underground bands who are starting up, because I feel like that's important. And there's so many, there's so many of them. There's so many bands starting out, and just start with the smaller bands. You know, if you need to pitch your work to them, reference them to your social media. Do you know how many requests I get? Mark, do you have anything laying around? No, I don't. I mean, come on. Like, if you have stuff laying around, somebody's going to eat that up.
Sure.
I do feel like there's potential for any artist out there who can get your work, even just published digitally for whether it's on a website or social media that's accessible. I think bands would be more than willing to and start out small. Like, I didn't charge much when I first started. Or even like I still do trades. Like, I'll do trades. I mean, I might be working for a band I love. I'm like, dude, send me your first album that I don't have yet. I'll trade you for this drum. Like, I'm down with that, because it's a win-win. So even if you want to do like freebies, like I said, I still do like freebies on occasion, but even just like doing a freebie just to get published, and that's how I got a lot of my stuff out there early on, especially in the 90s. So consider that, do a couple freebies, start getting published, getting, it's all networking. Going back to that networking concept, I mean, it's
there's definitely like, I think, like, I just want to say, like you said, do a couple freebies. Yes, I think there's definitely a validity to, like, I think there's definitely opportunities that will present themselves if you do like help a band out or whatever by doing something for free. However, you don't want people to take advantage of that.
Right. You have to know where to draw the line. There's a point. In all fairness, once you kind of get your feet wet, then start charging something affordable, and then it's up to you, the artist. You're the one who's valuing your own time, so you charge what you think is fair. Don't think you're ever overcharging or undercharging. You just got to charge what you feel is fair.
That's a huge thing that I want to touch on eventually with some other artists. But
yeah, I mean, you're the one who decides that, what your worth is and what your time is worth. And if bands don't respect it, then they can move on to some other artists. It's just there's
no audio, not hearing audio.
Battery thing as well. Just got a warning.
Okay. All right. Well, that should give us a little bit of a nudge to remember that Mark is on a little bit of, he's not trying to be here all night. So I really appreciate you answering the questions that we had. I don't know if we got to every one of them, and I'm very sorry if we did not.
I'd be happy to chat another time too. This is good. This is fun.
Yeah,
I love talking to you, Fred. I love talking to other artists.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
and like it's such a great pleasure to be able to talk to you about this stuff, because it's super valuable to me, and I'm sure so many others. I don't know. I feel, thank you so much for the compliments earlier. Like that really means a lot.
Dude,
and
well,
it just means a lot that you would take part in this and be so enthusiastic about it. It's really very.
I just don't draw. I mean, I'm an art appreciator too. I love art. I don't care if you're a novice or an expert. I love all kinds of art. If there's something about it that appeals to me, catches my fancy, then I'm totally into it. And I love your work. Your stuff is, there's just something very organic and texturous about your own work, Fred. But I'm not just that, but I feel like even outside the illustration work, you have really strong graphic design skills. And I
Thanks,
love
man.
that you're actually taking some time to utilize that aspect of your talent, skill set as well. And even just in some ways, like I coming on that blood sports shirt, being able to merge the two together in such a nice, unique way. I
It's
think
so
there's
cool that you mentioned that like little tidbit of like the frame with the break. Yeah, like I don't know. I just thought that was like a good idea.
that's awesome, man. I love details like that, just like the small things, man, that make a difference, you know. Um, but yeah, so I really enjoy your work quite a bit too, and I appreciate you being able to answer even some of my questions. I appreciate everybody who tuned in for
Yeah,
this.
thank you so much, everybody,
I,
for watching
I'm
and
very, very
participating.
grateful.
Um,
And I again going back, man. I thank you for doing this thing. I'm gonna try to make it on here every time you do
but
one of these.
thanks,
There's so
man.
much I'm learning.
I mean, you're always obviously if you don't need to if you can't make it, you can always watch the feed later. You know what I mean? I'm always going to be posting these after I get done.
Cool.
But no, I think we should outside of like in a separate message or wherever on an email, we should coordinate and maybe make a part two to this because
All right.
I feel like there's not enough time for us to really cover everything. I have more questions. I'm gonna have to write them down because I'll probably forget them. But
I might come with questions too. So,
right on. Well, this has been an absolute pleasure, man.
dude, same, man. I'm honored to be on here. I'm grateful to be associated with all the other folks you've had on here. It means a lot to me, and I think it's just what you're doing is just hugely beneficial to other artists, whether whether they've been doing this for a while or not. Nice.
Sorry. He's your biggest fan, man. We talking you up so hard before we got on, so just needed to.
It's awesome.
Shout out to Stabby.
Yeah, nice. Okay.
Luke put a bunch of knives in him when we took a picture of our flyer for the show.
Awesome.
So I just called him Stabby.
That's badass.
He's not feeling himself. He doesn't have any knives inside him right now, so we'll have to change that soon. But yeah, man, seriously, like, I'm so glad that you were able to take the time today. I don't want to keep you from, your family from the rest of the night here, but, like, I think from all of us that are watching and asking questions, like, thank you so fucking much.
No, man, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
And as far as that trade goes or whatever, if you want an original, let's talk about it. That's an honor. We'll talk about that. If anyone that didn't get to ask a question today or didn't get their question answered today, hold on to it because we're going to do a part two. And we'll figure out when that part two can happen. We'll figure out a time when it's best. But until then, let's all say thank you and cheers and send some love towards Mark Riddick because without you being involved in the metal scene, it wouldn't exist as we know it.
You're way too generous. I don't know about that, but okay, thanks.
Dude, no. I mean, like, seriously, there's so much art that has been influenced by you, that you've influenced others to do things musically with, to be a part of this community is huge, and to see you doing it still is huge. So thank you.
I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it. So
hell yeah, samesies.
Right on, man.
And now I've drank 3 beers, anxiously, nervously. And just
I'm probably nervous
as
you are. Nice.
Really? For me? Oh, because
hell yeah.
On screen, like
yeah, I don't like being on camera. It's like, but man, I want to talk to you, and I just
right on.
I love what you're doing.
Awesome.
To be a part of it's just a huge honor for me. So I appreciate it.
Hell yeah, thank you, dude. And with that being said, I think we're going to call it for today. Yeah, just endless thanks to everybody taking the time to check this out today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely, man. If it's okay with you, I'll let you sign off, and I'm going to just say my goodbyes to everybody else. And I'll post this up, and hopefully people that haven't checked it out will. I'll post it. I'll share it on my story. I'll tag you if you want to share it. And then we will schedule a part 2, and we'll be able to, get into some more things that we weren't able to touch on this time.
All right. Sounds good, friend. Thanks again.
All right, absolutely, man. And have a good rest of your Friday with your family.
Yeah, you too. Have a good night. Enjoy your weekend. And everybody watching, have a nice weekend. Stay safe. And hopefully catch you on part 2.
Right on, man. Say hi to Fuzz for me.
Fuzz and Coconut, the new hamster.
Oh, shit.
We got 2 of them now. Yeah.
Cool, man.
I will. All right, man. Take care.
All right, take it easy, sir.
All right, have a good night.
All right, thank you.
See ya.
Yeah, that was awesome. Holy shit. My heart is so fucking full. My face is so red. 3 beers deep. Yeah, seriously, this was so fulfilling. So cool to just be able to see inside his head, hear how he goes about things, how he thinks about things. And what an honor to who the fuck am I, man? I'm just a guy that decided to do a thing. Wow, holy fuck. That was so cool. Really, really appreciate all of you guys checking this out, interacting, asking questions, being generally interested. And I always like to, at the end of each episode, announce who my next guest will be. And I also want to point out that there are no hierarchies here. I'm not going to just be building and building and building to everybody that's more the better than the next. It's not about that. It's about getting perspectives from different sides of the plane that is art, especially in this community of underground metal. And so my next guest will be none other than Caroline Harrison. She is, I think it's called the Art of Caroline Harrison, or Caroline Harrison Draws, I think it is. Don't quote me on that exactly. I need to just look again. But Caroline Harrison is an excellent artist. She does scratchboard amazingly. She makes really fucking crazy crazy skin diseases, and just really touches on strange detail in weird human deformities and cysts and abscesses and all sorts of really cool shit. And it comes from a place of emotion, I'm sure. And I want to touch on that, talk on that. So I'm looking forward to that next week. Look for the announcement roughly around Monday, because it takes me time to get everything figured out for the post images, and I have a lot that happens, and sometimes I can't make that Sunday deadline. I try. So whenever you see that post, please share it on stories. Please make the time, if you care, to spread it. Tell people about it, because I want to keep doing this. I want people looking at it, checking it out, getting inspired, and just looking at me and being like, that guy's kind of ugly. I don't think he's as good looking as, no, I'm just kidding. But seriously, I can't thank you guys enough. Okay, yeah, Caroline Draws. Thank you very much, Nemesis Fortuna. Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. I haven't read all of this, so I'm just going to take a second. Off to work. Thank you for checking it out. Tomb Tower, what's up? Awesome artwork. Check that person out. Very nice chat. Follow. Sublane. Yo, Daniel, thank you so much for tuning in. Cheers. Love ya. Crypt Keepers Bryce, killing it. He does really rad coffin-shaped tape shelves and beyond. Of course, Matt Sticker, Morbid Sorcery, Yota Cravo. I think I'm saying that right. Is it Jota Cravo or is it Yota Cravo? I don't know. The Armored Foe, fucking everybody that took the time to check this shit out and beyond. Thank you very, 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 very much. All right. Everybody have a good fucking Friday night. Be safe out there. Drink responsibly. And I will see you next week with Caroline Harrison. Cheers.